Okay, welcome everyone to this week's episode of KUDEN Radio podcast, whatever you want to call it, it's fine with me. Anyway, dai-shihan Miller here from Warrior Concepts, but most of you already know that unless you're brand new to this. For those of you on live, James and I are running just a few minutes late because the service that we use changed the layout significantly enough that we're hunting around and trying to find things. Anyway, like I said, welcome. Right. So just to be completely transparent, this week's episode is actually based on something that I saw and I watched the whole training for, right? From a very highly successful individual that I consider to be a mentor, even though we don't work one-on-one kind of thing. I follow his stuff, and he was an immigrant to this country and just, knows the grindstone and figuring things out, following the success principles. And now he's got, multiple things going on, including a very, very successful podcast and all that. But anyway, so the training really had to do with another realm or another area in my life, but again, it was still around this same kind of idea. So if you got a chance to see the heading or the title, whether it was in the title slide or the emails that I send out to my list, folks that are subscribed so that they find out early, right, what's going on. We're looking at 10 signs that you won't be fill in the blank, right? In this case, in this episode, obviously we're talking about martial arts, Ninjutsu, that kind of thing, right? So 10 signs that you won't be a martial arts master, okay? I am absolutely prepared for shit talk and all kinds of other things and how I don't understand and all that moving forward. I get it. Whenever we do something like this, the unsubscribes start to happen. People don't want to listen, or we get, we get shit because we just don't understand. James and I were just having a conversation before the episode. We were at the dojo and talking about how, we were freaking poor growing up. I mean, we ate fried egg sandwiches because money wasn't there, and it wasn't there because my stepdad didn't have like a really, really good job. He had a phenomenal job, right? The guy was making, what was he making? $15 an hour in the mid to late 70s. Okay, we should have been swimming in fucking money. Okay, but we pissed it all away on whatever, and little to no food, and sometimes the rent went without being paid. But where'd all the money go? Anyway, so we're going to be taking a look at negative beliefs, limiting personality traits, personal beliefs, habits, those kind of things that these things are universal across anything that we might try to be successful at. We might try to become an expert in. We might try to, quote unquote, master, since we're talking about martial arts. Okay. And as soon as I watched this episode, this training that he had put out, his name was Patrick Bet David, for anybody that is curious. So I realized that these things were, again, they were universal, right? Like as soon as I saw them, I was like, holy shit, right? These are like the 10 go down personality traits, right? Did I just say go down? Yeah, that wasn't a misspeech or anything like that. I'll explain that right after we get started. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll run the intro, and then we'll kick off episode 231. All right, I'll see you in just a minute. Question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world.
And that is really still my story. So here we go, sticking to it, right? Again, this episode is based on a training that I kind of picked up on from somebody that I follow. I consider them to be a mentor because, they started immigrant to this country and working their ass off and creating the life that they want to live, right? And so, anyway, the gist of the video, right, was 10 signs you won't be a. Now, his word was millionaire because he is a success coach in multiple realms. But as soon as I saw this, I was like, holy shit, these things are universal, right? I immediately saw these things as what I call the 10 go down personality traits, personal beliefs, limiting habits, those kind of things, right? That they're universal across anything that we might be aiming for. Okay. And so now about that go down thing, right? So if you were on before I ran the intro, then I used the term go down, right? Perverts aside, thinking one way, right, or not. Go down is it's a term that we used way back in the day to put a little linguistic spin on Godon, fifth dan. Right? We called the fifth dan test the go down test. Right? And the reason we called it that was because more often than not, people would pass that test and then their training would back off, right? Instead of being the gateway that it's supposed to be, entering into a whole new realm of training, right? Kind of the flip side of things, right? Where we're integrating intention and picking up on intent at either really gross levels, and I don't mean disgusting, I mean gross like big, right? And more subtle levels. What Shrey Sensei always called the big ego bone, right? Because the term for bone in Japanese is kotsu. The term for the sternum is also kotsu. In Japanese, the sternum is, well, the name for the sternum is different, but the sternum is known as the kotsu bone, right? Because the word kotsu also means ego. And those with a big ass ego like to lead with the big ego bone, right? See, some of you, again, perverts were thinking I was talking about some other ego bone. Anyway, all right. So, and their training would just, fizzle, right? And so we had this name, but I think it's it's appropriate, right? There are certain habits and personality traits and beliefs, right, about oneself, about the world, about the way things work, and those kind of things that push people in a direction or pull people in a direction that is conducive to where they want to go, right? And not all the time, right? Because we all fall off our proverbial wagons, or life does get in the way, and it requires that we put out some fires before we take another 3 steps forward. Whatever, right? But these things, they to use the word inhibit or limit, I think is an understatement. Okay, so an example of this is while I was putting this stuff together, right? I thought of this moment a bunch of years ago. It started actually on the phone in my dojo, talking with another Shidoshi, not only in the Bujinkan, but living in my state, in the state of Pennsylvania, probably a good hour, more than an hour or two away. And I can't remember how the whole conversation got started. I do remember he reached out to me, but I can't remember if it was like email and then I was following up with him. Either way, we were talking on the phone, and I have never heard somebody mention their rank so many friggin' times during a 20 or 30-minute phone conversation. Like it was like, except for the other pieces that got put in between, it could have been a freaking a recorded loop, right? And that just tells me where somebody is, right? If their first question is, what's your rank, or if their first question is, how long you been training, or whatever, as opposed to, I don't know, where are you in the training? What kind of problems do you have, or like who do you train with, that kind of thing. And again, all these questions, they could be mundane, they could be harmless, right? But once they start getting stacked, that's not harmless, right? There's this comparative thing going on. Last week, I'm starting to do more things like with my weekly lessons and lesson plans. I'm starting to do more of a kind of a weekly theme, right? And part of it is to be able to approach a topic from different directions, right? So in KUDEN, right, we talk about things much more from a mindset, strategic thinking kind of perspective, and also intent. And sometimes we talk about techniques and skills, but it's always from like a strategic kind of standpoint, right? And then Whiteboard Wednesday, definitely strategic thinking, tactical operation, but it's in the physical realm. It's based on some physical self-protection aspect. Like last week was mutodori, right? So quote unquote unarmed against a blade, but in Ninjutsu goes way deeper than that. This week I'm looking at habits and mindsets and whatnot that get in the way, right? That actually are counterproductive to where we're going. Okay, an example, well, maybe a case in point is the class that I'm doing tomorrow night with my Shinobi Kai and my Ninpo Masterclass folks. We're actually going to be revisiting Mod 1 techniques, because I think a lot of people in their head, right, they associate techniques with the rank level where they got them, instead of understanding that all techniques are just that, they're techniques, right? And at least the way we do it, they're chosen and placed into the curriculum based on the techniques, the technique being an example of specific principles and concepts that we want a student to get at that level. Okay, so if they're in Mod 1, what I want them to get is two things. I want them to get a sampling of things to come, right? And different types of evasion and whatnot. But I also want them to be able to have a complete set of techniques and skills and whatnot to allow them to protect themselves against the most common attacks that occur, at least in our area. But I think they're the most common across the Western world, right? So, punching attacks, kicking attacks, different types of grabbing attacks. And they're not the possibility things, they're the probability things, okay? And an ex-federal cop, they're based on what can be proven statistically, right? And so, from a student's very first class, they'll have a tool, a couple of skills to avoid incoming attacks. And I think I mentioned this in a previous training. I can't remember if it was Whiteboard Wednesday or one of these, but we've got 3 goals for people in that level when it comes to physical defense, right? Be hard to hit, be hard to hold on to, and be hard to break, okay? So being hard to hit is all about evasion tactics, right? And it's all around the principle or core philosophy that if you can't hit me, you can't hurt me. And if you can't hurt me, you can't beat me, right? And then, but what if he does grab you? Okay, well, he's going to grab in pretty standardized places or ways. And so we're teaching principles for releasing those grabs and resetting the fight so I can go back to evasion as quickly and as easily as possible, using leverage, using strength-based positioning rather than muscle-based positioning or muscle-based strength, knowing that new students, right, are going to muscle things. So if they grab, then, we got that and we can go back to it. But then, there's always that possibility that during evasion or during a grab escape, again, based on, how the average human being tries to do things like that, or just because it was a surprise and this guy comes up and shoves you from the back or from the front or whatever, then really simple break fall techniques that a new person can do so that they learn to go to the ground much more safely and therefore be unbreakable, right? So, but again, it's based on, the average, jackwagon having a bad moment, anger management moment or whatever, or they're not that trained, they're whatever, right? So we're not looking at defending against a killer, right? Anybody that wants to do that has to move on, right? And then each module kind of pairs those things out, right? We've got overwhelm and creating time and space, and then there's a whole other module for intercepting, preemptive committed response where you're stealing space and you're taking the fight to them. And then there's also evasion, where you're actually doing more of a trapping kind of thing, right? And then we've got a module just before black belt. It's not just a review of things and a prep for black belt, but we have things in there that don't really fit neatly into any given module before that. So some ground stuff in there. There's single-legged stuff in there, chokes and whatnot. These things either don't fit well into any one of those or could go into more than one of these things, right? So, so again, there was this the theme, right? So last week's was Mutodori, right? And during that one, I introduced everybody to a Japanese phrase that they may or may not have heard before in the context of Ninjutsu training or Bujinkan or whatever. And, in all honesty, I don't care, right? When I teach a lesson, I don't set out to copy, right? Because if everybody's teaching the same thing the same way, everybody's learning everything or the same things the same way, then everybody has the same capabilities. Well, that's all wonderful, but if we're all playing telephone or if we're all playing copy or whatever, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. Okay. So again, I'm also preemptively setting up, what do we have, James? A little less than 4 weeks to our fall camp where a lot of this stuff is going to be integrated and whatnot. So anyway, so the phrase that I introduced last week is, I'm sorry, Chikara Kurabe. Chikara Kurabe. Chikara is, for those of you taking notes, Chikara. That means strength, force, strength, force, not necessarily power, but it could be. But it's that, what do you got, right? Kind of thing. It tends to be seen in Japan or in the Japanese language as a brute force kind of thing. Okay, and then kurabe, right, means to match, to compare, to observe and assess, those kind of things, right? So the phrase together, chikara kurabe, means to match strength or to compare strength, that kind of thing. So it really implies both the sport approach to fighting. I don't care if it's boxing, martial arts, whatever, where everything's set up for it to be a fair fight up front. Okay, so got to be the same weight class, everything generally equal, right? And then we're going to see who's the better one, right? But it implies, Chikara Kurabe implies this head-on brute force against brute force kind of thing. So first of all, everything gets matched, right? It's a matched contest or comparison. And then we're going to observe and assess and see, who has their shit together more than the other person. Okay. This is exactly opposite of what Ninjutsu training is supposed to be. Okay. It flies in the face of even Budo Taijutsu, right? But specifically Ninpo Taijutsu. And yes, Virginia, not only is there Santa Claus, but there's a huge difference between the two, which is not a topic for tonight. Anyway, so in Ninjutsu, what we would do is pull the one kind of way to translate Kurabe to kind of understand things, because Ninjutsu is all about strategy and technique. Okay. And I know when people think about technique, they think about jacking something on somebody, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay? And so again, if we're all doing the same thing and we're all defining things the same way, that only works if the definitions are correct. Okay. So the sub definition in Kurabe is to observe and assess. And so I will be doing a training later forward. I don't know if it's this week or next week, where we're going to be introducing, or I'm going to be introducing, the concept of jiu. And I've talked about that in the past, right? But from the context that the beginning of the kata and the end of the kata are not defined as the beginning and end of the fight. Okay. I mean, ideally, that'd be freaking wonderful. Okay. But there's always this implication that something came before it. And if shit doesn't work out or it goes sideways, something's going to come afterwards. Right. So, but in some of the schools, Gyokoryu, some it's not stated, but it's implied. But there are these kanji for jiu, right? And jiu can mean formlessly adaptive. It can mean free movement, free adaptation, that kind of thing. But the way I introduce students to it is the idea that something has come before this moment, and this punch that they're throwing, that the kata says, you catch this, uke nagash, blah, 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 do your thing, right? That's the moment that your balance was right, your ability to move freely was right, you caught it, right? Not just you caught the limb with your limb, right? You caught them, right? And that created a moment where they couldn't stop you from doing the next piece, the next piece, the next piece, right? So, but I'm going to cover this jiu and attach it to uke nagash. Okay? Uke nagash, receiving flow, receiving, almost like a receiving dispersal as well. Okay, so I'm not talking about uke uchi, right? I teach a lot of those, right? Uke uchi, receiving strikes. Okay, I just call them counter strikes, right? He sticks out an arm or a leg or whatever. I shift offline. That is the block, right? He missed. Now I beat the shit out of that thing he just gave me. Okay, so that's a different thing. But this uke nagash, if we go by the definition, right? When we make contact with their arm, tactily, not tactically, but it's tactical as well, but tactily, right? Based on sense of touch, right? We should be assessing and measuring. Okay, kurabe, that definition of kurabe. Okay, I'm assessing and measuring his strength, his intention, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not just what a lot of people miss, because they keep focusing on form only, is that uke nagash is not just done with that arm. Uke nagash is also done with my ears. It's also done with my eyes. It's also done with my sense of intuition, those kind of things, right? Because part of uke nagash and this kurabe part is, and this goes into mutodori. This is a huge key in mutodori, right? Is to tune into their breathing, right? And that's going to tell me a lot about intention, energy level, balance, all those kind of things, right? How synergistic are they operating, right? but I'm not processing this stuff left brain. That's what the dojo training is for, right? We should be able to pick up on these things. And the more pistons, so to speak, that we're firing on, the better. But anyway, so this idea of this chikara, right? Force, whatever. Some people try to do that based on will, and it doesn't last very long. It's kind of like doing New Year's resolutions, right? It doesn't work very long, because the habit patterns and the thought, the belief habits, right? Because habits are thoughts. There's word patterns. There's physical actions. Most people think of habits as just like, biting your nails or whatever. But if you listen to people, often they'll use the same freaking phrase over and over and over again. Right? Some people on my videos will say, you say or whatever all the time, right? Or you'll say right. Yeah, okay. Because I end the statement with a right to get, to get somebody to tune in, right? See, I just did it again, right? Same thing with or whatever. And that's my stock. I'm making a list of things, and then like I'm only going to give you 2, 3, 4, no more than 4, and then I'll say or whatever, okay? Because there's way more that could go into that, okay? But it is a habit, right? See, I just did it again, right? I just did it again. How tuned in are you to these things, right? So I'm just going to stop saying that I said right, because it happens way too often. But no matter how much we try to will things or force things or strong arm ourselves or someone else, it only lasts so long, right? Facade drops, or the habit patterns kick back in again, because we're not mindful about things consistently enough. And so therefore it continues to stay in the realm of things that I should do, or things I know I should do, or things I don't want to do, or whatever. See, there's another one. Part of the training is to rewire the nervous system, to change the habits, to get them away from caveman with refinement. If anybody's ever, I'm my grandfather now, but when my girls were growing up, Toy Story was a big thing. And there was a statement that was in there. It was this cool little thing between Woody and Buzz, that Buzz really couldn't fly, right? He was just falling with style. We often do lots of things with style, but it's still the rough caveman kind of stuff, and then we just refine it. This training is about changing that so that it's no longer something that you do. It's so much a part of who you are that you can't not do the correct thing. That becomes the new habit pattern. But we have to do it consistently, not whenever. And we have to do it enough to push through. And this is where Chikara will come in, right? The strength and force to push through ego's resistance, because ego gets bored easily. Ego will settle for good enough. Ego will settle for, if I know the answer and can explain it, well, see, then as long as nobody catches on that I can't do it physically, or I can only do it physically 50% of the time, then it doesn't count, right? But all of this is about these things, right? So anyway, this week I'm focusing on things that get in the way. So during classes, what mistakes are we making, right? What mistakes are we making with regards to where our head is at any given point in the technique? Do we have any intention in there other than to wrap the arm, or to are we so focused on the outcome that we're screwing up things in the process getting there, instead of remembering that the law of the universe is karma, cause and effect. And so if I focus on the process and I get these things right, the outcome I don't have to worry about the outcome. The outcome, these actions in this order produce that thing. Right? So anyway, so I'm working these things, right? So this week, got these other things going on. But again, last week, Muto Dori. So there were a whole bunch of things in there that had to do with stripping away habits. And the first thing that we had to strip away was defining Muto Dori the same way all other Japanese martial arts, practically all other Japanese martial arts define it, which is just literally, right? Without blade catch. Okay, so I'm unarmed and he has a blade. What if he doesn't? What if he has a stick? It's the same. Okay, but what if I have a knife and he has a sword? Well, see, now it's knife on sword. No, it isn't. It's Mutodori. The essence of Mutodori is the opposite of Chikara Kurube. Right? The essence of Mutodori is to not meet the attacker and his power, force, advantage, or whatever head on. That's the essential nature of Mutodori. Okay? So how do we go about doing that? Well, see, that's where the training comes in. And, well, anyway. So what I want to do during this one was, again, we'll see how many show up, because this, again, tends to be one of those things where, if ego can just define what mastery is, then it's all good, right? But we all know what we mean, right? We've seen the Saturday Kung Fu Theater movies, and the 98-pound Chinese guy is whipping, merchant marines and dock workers' asses who are like 200-300 pounds, and with a smile on his face and barely moving. And we've seen Hatsumi Sensei, and we know what that is, okay? And we know, right? If we were to compare our stuff to their, okay, we get it, right? But we can't will ourselves to produce something karmically, again, based on cause and effect, right? That doesn't match our actions, doesn't match our mindset, doesn't match our intention, doesn't match, right, our consistency. Right? So anyway, I got a little derailed there, but let's go back to this story. When I was putting this episode together, I got to thinking about this phone call that I had with this sixth Dan. Well, how can I forget, right? And I'm not. This isn't like I picked a Dan level. Again, I've never heard somebody's rank so often in a 20 or 30-minute phone conversation than I did in this one, right? And what stuck in my head is he made his sixth Dan in 6 years. Like, nobody's done that, man. I mean, sixth Dan in 6 years. Okay, but what can you do? Right? So anyway, it was very, very cordial, whatever, okay? But he just kept repeating this thing, right? And then I bumped into him in Japan, had no idea he was going to be there. And we kind of, remembered our conversation, and, 6 Dan, 6 years. Okay, fine, right? I get it, dude. I mean, how many times do you have to fucking repeat yourself, right? Are you trying to convince me, or are you trying to convince you, right? And personally, I don't care what anybody's rank is. What I care about is what's your proficiency level. But I only care about that if you're one of my students, because I'm responsible for making sure that you get things correctly, and that your ability to use those under pressure when you don't have left brain thinking about step by step. Right? Because the only test that ever matters is the one when evil's coming at you. That's the only one that ever matters. Right? I ask people what's the most important test they'll ever take, and people will go black belt. Some people will go white belt. That's not it. It's the one where you actually have to put your freaking taijutsu where your mouth is, and produce results, or go to the hospital, go to jail, go to the morgue, whatever. Okay, there are no do-overs. Okay, so anyway, I bumped into him in Japan, and I happened to be working with one of my students at that time. Two of my other students were over to the right of me. This might have been my 2004 trip where I was about the biggest group I took along with me. Took 9 people, I think. Good ninja number, by the way. Anyway, so the kamiza's over to my left, and so one of the walls right behind us, and then he and his partner to my left. And normally when I'm in the dojo, when I'm in Japan training, and my guys that have gone with me know, before class starts, I round everybody up, I bring them in, and I go, we're in class, okay? Don't talk to me, because I come here and I drop this amount of money because I put myself in student mode. And I get it. You might be confused or whatever, okay? But I'm trying to figure this out for myself, because I'm looking at things at higher and higher levels. Now, if I see you making a gross mistake, I will lean in and say something just very quickly. I'm not here to teach, but I'll point at something. But if I'm not doing that, don't talk to me, because I'm in student mode. Okay. And so we're going back and forth, and I'm working with my partner, and I look at my students over here, and they're kind of bump into this problem with this one technique that Hatsumi Sensei had demonstrated. And I lean in and I go, it's an onikudaki. And they go, at this point right here where you do this, right, you're just coming in from a different angle, and you're catching him in the process, because these students were still in the phase where they were working the basic model to release, to learn to enter, to learn to catch, to learn to apply, that kind of thing. And so this was like on the fly, catching this thing out of the air. And I said, it's an onikudaki right here. You need to be at this angle, catch. Okay, got it. Okay, don't ask. Okay, and I go back to training, and my partner puts something on me, and I turn over here, and lo and behold, this 6 dan and 6 year guy, right, who's probably now, I don't know, 15th dan in 15 years, or who knows. He and his partner were running into the same problem, and they're just trying to sort it out. And I just said, I'm not here to teach, dude, but it's an onikudaki. And he just goes, is that one of those like Kihon basic things? And I said, yes. And he goes, oh, well, I didn't have to learn those to get to this rank anyway, so it's, why start now? So I'm probably not going to learn them anyway. I said, okay, fair enough. Went back to training. So this was the answer that he came up with, right in the face of a technique that he couldn't do because he didn't know a basic. He couldn't do that, right? And here he was, stuck. But his defense was, well, see, I need that shit to get to this rank anyway, so why start now? Which just makes me think of that quote that I have hanging on my door, the office door, from Hatsumi Sensei, that in a dangerous situation, if you cannot do what you cannot do, you will die. And here's another example of that: cannot do what you cannot do. Right? He's never going to be able to do the technique that Hatsumi Sensei demonstrated, because he can't do the frickin' basic. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even know it. So I've heard the words. Okay, you're not my responsibility. Have at it. Okay, enjoy that 6 dan in 6 years. Congratulations. Okay, I don't know what's behind it, but hey, enjoy it. So what I want to take a look at during this episode are, I'm literally going to do this as a counterintuitive kind of lesson, right? So every once in a while I get tired of repeating myself with the what to do. Look, you need to get this, you need to get this, you need to get this. That naturally leads in this direction. But in all honesty, no, and I had to come to face this as well. Hatsumi Sensei's told me, Shitoshi Malmstrom, and all these teachers that have told me at certain points that, look, now some were nice about it, some not so nice. And that's another thing too. People always need to be spoken to in a nice way, or they'll get defensive or run away or go find somebody else, talk to them nicely. Then they're not working on warriorship. Okay, because warriorship requires hardship, it requires challenge, it requires conflict, and internal and external. Okay, well, I say okay, but nobody has to believe me or understand it or agree or whatever. Okay? If you've ever seen the Matrix trilogy, one of my favorite lines, I think it was in number 3, where they're at Zion, and Morpheus goes in to see this general, and he asks for these ships, and he talks about the strategy and stuff, and the general says, "Damn it, Morpheus, not everyone believes as you do." And Morpheus is just this freaking classic line. It's just awesome. He goes, "And my belief system doesn't require that they do." Fucking amazing. Anyway, so nobody has to buy into this shit. However, no matter how many things a teacher gives you that you need to do or you need to work on or whatever, if we're dragging anchors, right? Winter's coming up here pretty soon. The Scrooge story and him being visited by Jacob Marley, and he's got all these fucking heavy blocks hanging off of him and shit like that. If that's what we're laden down with, then good luck, because that's probably what it's going to take. So anyway, before I jump into that, James, are you still on? Is James here? Sorry, we're looking. There he is. We have to look at opposite sides of the freaking thing because they majorly changed everything. So, James, who's on? Who do I need to say hello to? Who do I ignore? No, I'm just kidding.
Looks like Dave, Fletch, Jimmy, Merrill.
Jimmy, have I missed Jimmy for a while? Jimmy, where have you been? Punk. No, I'm just kidding. Just, don't come to this area and kill me because I'm old, worthless, and weak. People always laugh. Nobody believes me when I say that. Whatever.
Okay. Jeffrey Fletcher.
Jeffrey. Oh, I'm sorry. That almost threw me off. I keep forgetting. Like sometimes in class, I've got multiple Fletchers on. Nobody's made me an arrow yet. Bastards. Anyway. Is that it?
That's all that's signed in right now.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay, fine. All right, so cool. And that's it, just highs and whatnot. No questions, comments. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm actually gonna start with one part here that is both first and last, I guess, right? So we'll start with number 10. I don't think my countdown goes backwards like that. It doesn't. Okay. So sorry, I got 7 pages of notes to make sure I properly convey things to the level that I hope comes across. Okay, so let's just jump into this, right? And take a look at these, again, 10 signs that usually I don't say you because I don't want ego to be triggered and people to run away or get defensive or whatever. But it's true, right? It was true for me. It was true for Hatsumi Sensei, right? Hatsumi Sensei, he went to Takamatsu Sensei. That first meeting, right? Of course, I got this secondhand from him, but he went to that first meeting and he's fucking bragging about all these freaking black belts and Mikkyo Kaiden and shit like that he has, or attained since he started. And Takamatsu Sensei said, like, what's your goal? I want to be a great martial arts master. Takamatsu Sensei said, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. The best you're ever going to be is a gadfly. Right? James, I know you know what a gadfly is. Everybody else know what a gadfly is? It's a big, ugly fucking fly that flies around the ass of horses and bovine and eats shit. Right? That offended this great, right? I don't understand why anybody would set a goal to be a great martial arts master when they're already walking around bragging their ass off as though they're already a great martial arts master. Right? I incited a friggin' student one time into major fucking anger because I asked him why he wanted to study this martial art. Kept telling me about his rank in this art, and his rank in this art, and his rank in this. Well, why this one? Other than bragging rights, why this one? Right? You could already kick ass. Why? Okay. I'm going to be having a conversation with somebody that interacted with a promotional thing we have on Facebook. He's already, black belts in BJJ and Taekwondo, and he's done wrestling and all that kind of stuff. And, what am I going to learn from this? I don't want to take it if I'm going to be learning the same things I already know, which makes sense. But I'm going to ask the same question. Why? If you already have all this other stuff, why? Because you wouldn't be looking if you didn't feel like something was missing. The question is, do you know what's missing, or is it, I just feel like something's missing? Okay. So, anyway, well, let's just jump into this. So, the first one, the big one, and I'm gonna circle back to this when we get to the end. Okay. So this is first and last. Okay. Or it's 0 and 10. How about thinking about it that way? Okay. So the first sign is that the person doesn't understand or want to believe in the law of karma, cause and effect. Everything, every effect is caused. There's a primary cause, there's conditioning causes, there's a bunch, right? But even if we just did it linearly, right? I mean, people say it out loud. Look what you made me do. But then they turn around and go, I don't believe in that shit. But you just fucking blame them for you doing the thing that you just, all right, now I'm confused, right? I'm not, right? Because that's called cognitive dissonance, trying to hold two opposing views at the exact same friggin' time. And it doesn't work, okay? So either they don't understand it, which is fine because somebody can always learn, right? Or they know it and they don't want to believe it, okay? And see, there's this other thing too, right? They don't think that they should be subject to, right? Sometimes, right? And we have to double check ourselves on these things, right? So go down this thing like a checklist and don't be too superficial with it. Take some time, right? They think they're so special, so unique. Yeah, I'm going to use a different term. So godlike, right? That they should be exempt from its effect on them, right? You don't know me, man. That's not always true. Okay, so you don't operate like any other human being on the face of this planet, now or ever in the past, and the laws that govern and the principles and concepts that govern the universe, the same ones that are within the techniques you're trying to master, you're not conditioned or subject to those yourself. Interesting. Okay. I'm usually really nice to people. I just kind of smile and go, "Oh, okay." But if they keep coming at me with bullshit, then I'm going to very quickly point out that perhaps other things are going on, which we'll talk about as we go. All right. So, and for those, and I don't know who's on other than what the folks that James had read off and whatnot, because we often have people that jump on and follow things, and then they'll leave a comment later, right? One person during a video like this, and I don't remember, it was an independent video that I did, like one I just taught a lesson, recorded it, and then uploaded it to YouTube or TikTok or whatever, or it was something in this context. I don't remember, but it was in this format, but it was definitely a lesson like this. And what they posted was, I get it, right? All students suck. It's not what I said. However, several of my teachers have pointed out that defensiveness and anger is a really quick sign to know that either consciously or unconsciously, we think that we're already there. That's speaking to us. Right? So, but then see, this is a checklist, right? Go down through this thing, and those that apply, do what you want with them. Those that don't, or you don't think they do, well, then don't do anything with it. Okay? So, again, these folks that I'm talking about here, right? They're among this group of what I would call highly average, right? At best, people who expect that just because they exist, that they should get whatever, right, they want because they want it. Okay. And because they don't, right, they want to tear things down, recreate life, society, whatever, right? They want to recreate it in their own image of how things should be, right? I'm making air quotes for those of you on audio only. But they don't actually know how or why things work the way they do, right? Which is why they're not getting what they think they should. And like every other child who just wants to win, because they want to, and everyone else should let them, they throw a fit instead of either figuring it out or finding someone who can help them learn why things work and do the things they do, right? So again, two mindsets do this thing, right? One, like I said, small child, right? And two, gods or demons, I guess, too. That would be the opposite, right? But the Chinese have a saying. The saying in Chinese is the way you do anything is a really good sign as to the way you do everything. Okay? So again, take all these things with a grain of salt, right? Because the intention behind it is more. The intention behind it is always whether this is worth doing and whether it's worth doing right. Okay? We'll bump into several along the way here as we go. Right. So the reality based on this law of karma, or law of causation, right, is that our lives are a reflection of our beliefs, our habits, our actions, our karma, right? That means that chances are the people who can't make shit work in their lives and want things their way anyway will only, right, if they're allowed to tear things down and recreate things or build things up based on their current beliefs, their current understanding of the way things work, all that kind of stuff, they're only going to recreate things that will work the same, shit, right? Or the smarter ones will manipulate things, even people, right? Who they can get to do the work of creating, right? But of course, what they want this person to create is for things to be in a way where the new way of doing things works so that they get the benefits and screw everybody else. Okay. Again, back to the way some children often play games, right? Trying to change the rules every time things are going or not going their way, right? Or they're just wired to overtly cheat the system, right? And some people, the reality is that some people are just born with bad wiring, right? Hopefully that's not us. However, there's nothing to stop anybody from learning this stuff and then abusing it, other than a strong moral and ethical code, which is why the first area of training for a young up-and-coming ninja in the Togakure school was Seishin Teki, personal clarity, personal development, that kind of stuff, right? So to them, all that matters, right, is that they win, right? Which is going to be really confusing when they get into upper levels of training and they're in a Nagato Sensei class, or chances are they're not going to be in a Hatsumi Sensei class anymore, but they bump into a lesson like, you don't have to win, just don't lose. Wait, what? No. There's winning and losing. They're opposites. No, they're not. But you don't have to win. And winning takes on, and this is where things get broken up, right? If I can negotiate this thing down to where we both go home and nobody got hurt, right? That's a win. Right? But the Chikare Kurabe mind, right? That matching strength, that let's see who's better, that, you know, somebody wins, then somebody else loses. That kind of competitive mindset will always translate these things. And that's where you'll see these comments under some of my videos, and probably others too, right? Where something like this gets pointed out and the person will type out more of that ninja double talk bullshit. All right, well, that just means that somebody's mind here can't understand the lesson, right? Because if confusion is there, then it's because we can't relate. We're not at a point with requisite lessons or requisite understanding that allows for us to get our head wrapped around that thing. It's just like, you know, looking at Natsumi Sensei stuff, right? Or any advanced teacher stuff, dai-shihan, soge, whatever. What we try to make sense of, hopefully it's only a beginner's mind, and I mean in a somebody starting out, because ultimately there's a beginner's mind that has to kind of stay there to allow us to do certain things as well. But I mean the beginner who, okay, stepped back with his right foot and he hit his left arm, or he hit this guy's right arm with his left fist, and then he stepped in and did like this knife hand to the side of his neck. Okay, well, 1, that's extremely vague. 2, to what angle? 3, why that angle? Okay, why that counter strike at that moment? What does that counter strike do? Well, it hits his arm. Yeah, duh. Okay, but what is the effect that uke uch, not uke nagash, uke uch, was supposed to create, so that the defender, practitioner, whatever, knows that they have an opening and they are safe to go in to do the knife hand to the neck, that he won't escape, he won't avoid, he won't counter, he won't punch in the throat on your way in, whatever. Well, the technique says he won't, so there's, yeah, okay, that's great. Again, I don't play the game of circular logic. Right? If the merry-go-round gets boring, I'm going to get off. Again, there's this idea that everyone else is just a plaything, right? Where the other quote unquote players are there to allow this person who just wants things their own way, right? Wants them to feel like they're playing against others, okay? That there's actually competition. But the game, right? The competition, the task, where the skills need to be for this person isn't in playing by the rules so that everyone has a chance to win the game, right? Again, we're talking about small children. Well, are we talking about small children? It's in manipulating things to get the win, to keep bending, breaking, changing the rules so that they get what they want, hoping no one complains, or if they do, right, they'll be called whatever, fill in the blank with whatever anybody's favorite phrase of condemnation is, right? You're a bigot, you're not fair, you're an asshole, whatever, okay? Because ego doesn't like to be found out. And these others, right, must play in a way that serves them, right? The manipulator. And these other players have to be okay with this charade. I mean, if that sounded all twisted and inside out and backwards and hard to hold on to, yeah, that's how crazy that freaking logic sounds. But ego's doing it all the time, right? So, and a lot of people, when I talk about, people twisting the system and all that kind of stuff, right? And how do I know? Well, people post shit all the time. So a lot of people would actually think that I'm talking about those rich bastards who have all the money, they have all the power, whatever. When I'm talking about ego, the ego that MDs those rich bastards, they really that ego wants the same thing those rich bastards have. But because it doesn't know how to do it, it doesn't understand the process. It doesn't understand natural or universal law. It doesn't understand Shizen, right? Nature. Then they must be fucking cheating. They must be corrupt, whatever. Okay. So when their BS doesn't work, right? Their belief system, right? You thought I meant bullshit. Hey, I guess so, right? But then again, they default to name calling, right? They default to deflection, right? Like calling out deceit, corruption, cheating in the world by others. How dare they, those uncaring bastards, not let me win, right? Or gather up all the money or whatever, right? Or they, again, we've had people on that will post these things. And what do I normally do, James? I let them win, right? Because nothing's going to change, right? I can say whatever I want, but as long as that's their belief system, okay, you win. Okay. So why aren't things working better? Well, it's because of those, really. Okay. They're supposed to be so self-involved and so egocentric and so despicable that they have time to think about you, and specifically manipulating and screwing things over for you. Really? Okay. Is there deceit? And of course, right? But I'll talk about that here in a bit. But anyway, so but what's happening is that they're going to, and they want to, right, dismiss tried, true, time-tested methods as old school, right? They use that's an old idea rhetoric kind of thing, right? Meaning that things aren't done that way anymore, which is really fucking ironic, right? And the reason it's ironic is that they won't work the old processes for success and changing their lives, but they're trying to learn ninjutsu and budo, literally keiko, old ways, exactly because they're time tested and proven to work. That makes no fucking sense. Zero. It's like ego could choose, okay, so I want to learn that stuff because that will get me a black belt or allow for validation. But the stuff that I could be applying to my everyday life, right? So that when I decide, you know what, I just want to have a life where I can kick back and relax and not worry about anything. Okay, great. Right? Just make sure that you're at a level where when you're doing that, the bills can be paid. Okay? Because you might not be doing that for very long, unless you decide you're going to be homeless, in which case, kick back on whatever street corner you want to. Anyway, again, but when it comes to successful people in any field, right, they don't reinvent the wheel. They don't. Right? They may innovate. They may make changes based on context and different situations or unique events, right? Same as we do with techniques or kata, whatever. But they don't change the principles and concepts that, well, I don't know, that work, right? They know that human beings have tested, right? They've been testing ideas, beliefs, ways to do things. Keep the list going, right? Whatever, right? For millennia. And what we have now is what does work consistently. And I believe that before I go and change something, if I can't do this thing that has been passed down consistently, where I understand how it works and I can produce results on a regular basis, then I don't have the time, or shouldn't be taking the time, to figure out how to innovate it, to make it better. Because I can't do it anyway. It's kind of like somebody in one of Sumaya Sensei's classes one time, or was it Noguchi's classes? In one of Noguchi Sensei's classes, this person was asking like why you would do this or when you would do it in a given context, or when would I do that? And Noguchi Sensei laughed at him, like big old open face. He said, "It doesn't fucking matter. You can't do it anyway." Right? People try to put the wrong questions at the wrong time. Maybe they're the right questions, but they're definitely at the wrong time. Right? I want to innovate before I actually understand how this thing works. It's like an inventor who's going to make an improvement on a washing machine, but has never torn a goddamn washing machine apart and doesn't know how it works. You're going to innovate what? All right. So it's the same thing with Henka, whatever. For a lot of people, that's just a big old freaking cop out, right? Everything's a Henka because they can't do the thing regularly. Right? Doesn't mean you didn't put the guy on the floor. It doesn't mean what you did worked or whatever. But let's not confuse ourselves. Okay. So again, this whole idea of these things that they work, right, consistently, right? This is called evolution for a reason. Okay. So again, instead of seeing those old ideas as tried and true, right, that they're old because they work and they keep working, and because they don't, because these folks don't like to have to follow a proven process, right? But they want to do it their own way. Okay. I believe the world works this way, so therefore I'm going to follow that logic. Well, that's not logic. Beliefs are not facts. Beliefs are not knowledge. Beliefs are not truths. Beliefs are expedients, something that we need to guide us in those areas where we need a direction, but I don't have evidence one way or the other. I don't know for sure. That's a belief. If I know for sure, then that belief doesn't exist. That's a knowledge. Okay, that's a knowing. Okay? So again, right? So again, the real problem is that they've been doing it their way this whole time. And the question they should be asking themselves is, how's my idea, or how's my belief system? How's it been working out for me? Right? If my ideas are right, if they're so freaking perfect, then why isn't shit working? Okay? I ask myself this question all the time. Okay? And before blaming anyone else, before blaming everyone else for it not working out, they need to look in the mirror and then sit down with a list of the things that are proven to work, and to check off the things. So they got a list, right? This is the old way, right? This is the shit that nobody, whatever. Okay. Well, before we dismiss that, how about if we lay it out, right? If you want to do just success in general, get Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Okay. Because they even define it in there. Wealth is not necessarily money, right? But people can't get over certain words, right? Well, then not my fault, right? That just happens to be written in a way where it kind of leans in that direction, but these are universal principles. Okay. So if I can't make it work with my finances, then how the fuck am I going to make it work in some other area? Because the principles are the same. What I'm working with is different. Okay? Anyway, so before blaming, right, we have this list, right? In Think and Grow Rich, there's 13, right? I'm giving you a list of things here that we would just look at the opposite. But again, I'm tired of teaching on the opposite because I keep getting questions about why it's not working. Well, I don't know. Did you do the stuff? Did you? Anyway, I'll go down the list. Okay. So we're gonna start with this list of things that are proven to work, proven to get somebody from point A to point B. In the Ninja's Mikkyo mind science stuff, right? We have a whole bunch of these lists. Okay. The Noble Eightfold Path, okay? Right belief or right perspective, that starts everything, right? Because that guides thoughts, words, actions, effort, livelihood. I'm naming them off. Okay. These are 8 areas that we should be mindful of. And so when things go amiss, one of the first things we do is step back and figure out, all right, which one did I not manage well? And that's why shit happened the way it did. Okay. But we've got this list, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to check off the things that we're actually honestly doing consistently that are on the list. Okay. I've tried everything. Well, obviously not. Right? Remember one time I took a student. I love this guy. He's still in the training and doing well. He's a Shidoshi. But I took him to his first seminar when I was still doing some work with Stephen Hayes, and gets there, and I take him up to introduce him, and he's all starstruck and whatnot. And we talked about this beforehand. I'm like, dude, if you say this thing, I'm going to smack you. May not be right in front of him, but we're going to train at some point, right? Oh, yeah, no, that's cheesy. I would never say that. Sure as hell. Introduce him, da-da-da, this is my student. My student blurts out, oh, I've always wanted to meet you. I've always wanted to train with you. Something like that, right? And he looks at him and goes, well, obviously not enough, right? Of course, we kind of exchanged glances because this was a common thing in the dojo, right? If you've always wanted to do something and we're still not doing it, well, then you didn't want to do it enough, right? Because it would already be done. Anyway, so we're going to go down this list and we're going to check off the things that we do. Honestly, we honestly do them, okay? Consistently, right? And then we're going to take note of the things that we're not doing, but could be and probably should be, right? So, and here's where the things start to creep in, where the naysayers are like, well, I don't have the money for that. I don't have the time for that. I don't have the... Okay, look, this is not fucking difficult. This is not rocket science. We can simply set aside the things that can't be done right now for whatever the reason is, as long as we're being fucking honest, right? Okay. Well, I don't have the time for it. Really? Give me your phone. Let me go through the history. Really? Wow. Shit. 13 hours on your phone this week, and it's only Tuesday, or it's only Monday, or whatever. Seriously? Shit. Okay. And what apps did you use? Really? Okay. Seriously. Well, I just freed up 13 hours for you. What else you got? Or 18 hours for you. What do you got? Okay. But we set aside the things that can't be done right now until they can be, because whatever the reasons are they can't be done need to go on the list of things to be done, or that'll never get done. Right? And I can't. Well, as soon as we do that, well, then we're fucked, right? Because we did it ourselves. Okay? It reminds me, I was in a relationship quite a while ago, a long time ago, because I've been with my wife for what, 17, 18 years now. And this person was really, really smart, really, I mean, success oriented and all that kind of stuff. Would take some time to really map out like a goal and a plan. I thought we were like kindred spirits. But holy shit, every time. And it's inevitable that it's going to happen because we can't think of everything. And life throws curveballs and shit like that, right? But as soon as an obstacle or as soon as a challenge or whatever, right, popped up, they would automatically assume that the whole plan couldn't be done just because of that one obstacle or that one piece of the puzzle. It wasn't doable right now or whatever. And see, I'm like, obstacle? Okay, good. So I'm going to go over it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go around it. I'm going to dig under it. And if it's truly not doable at the moment, that's what this fucking thing is for, right? Nin, not perseverance. A part of perseverance is patience, right? The blade over the heart, right, represents this idea that there are moments when we can't act without screwing ourselves over, without being in more danger, without increasing the challenge, whatever, okay? Pull up to a friggin' railroad crossing, stop and wait for the damn train to go by, okay? Could I drive around? Well, maybe, but by the time I spend all the time, effort, and whatever to find a road where I can cross over and the train's not there, how farther away from my goal am I, or how much time and energy and effort and gasoline or whatever have I spent or burned up trying to make that happen? Sometimes you just need to hold. Right? So again, we can just set things aside. Right? Anyway, so again, we start with a list of things that are proven to move us in a direction. And then we check off the things that we're honestly doing, right? Then we note the things that we know we're not doing, but we could be doing, right? And we make that list, okay? Guess what? We have a to-do list, right? And then we need to look at that list and mark off the things that we should be doing, but we won't do. There's a difference between can't and won't. Way too many people use the word can't in place of the word won't, just like you can't hear them, but it makes me grind my freaking molars. And my dentist, every time he sees me, he's like, grinding your molars again. Yeah, well, anyway. So it's just like people who replace the word think with the word feel out of context. I feel that shouldn't be right. What the fuck does that even mean? Okay. I get you're having a feeling, but what's your logical base behind that? What, right? That makes no sense. So we check off, or we make a list, or be honest about the shit that's on that list of things we could be doing, but we're not, right? To identify the things that we should be doing, but we won't. Can't is easy. You find a teacher, you do research. Everybody's carrying around, where the hell's mine? James and I talked about this earlier. Everybody's carrying around one of these goddamn things. Right? As a matter of fact, they're putting themselves in the damn poorhouse because they need a certain type and they need a certain plan and whatnot, right? That they can't really afford yet, but they're doing it anyway because, I don't want to feel like I don't have what I need. It's either a fucking phone or it's a game system. Pick one, right? So anyway, this is a supercomputer and it's tapped into the fucking internet, which means that everybody has access to damn near all of the information and all the data and all the knowledge that human beings have ever discovered in the fucking palm of their hand. We could find answers. This thing is what, 100 times, 1,000 times more powerful than the computer system that landed guys on the moon? And we're going to walk around going, well, I don't know how to do that. Really? Shit. We can find cheat codes. We can look up porn. Why the hell can't we look up something that's going to get us where we need to go? Well, I just can't avoid those cat videos, Sensei. They're just so damn addictive. Whatever. Anyway, so what are we not doing? What should we be doing? But we just flat out won't, right? And then we need to look at that list and identify those things that we didn't know were necessary. Okay? Because when we make any kind of plans, we can only plan based on what we know, or that we know we don't know. Until it's in the realm of the known, can't do shit with it. Okay, but there's a lot of stuff where we don't even know we don't know. Okay, like once Izuku Sensei toe stabbed me on the side of my fucking lower leg, just above my ankle bone and below the calf muscle, but it was on the side where it's all bone. Burned like a son of a bitch. Had no idea that I had a Kyusho there. And even if I did, and other people used it, man, the way he acted, and so, and I'm sure we've all had those moments. Like, I didn't even know I had that part of my body. I tagged somebody on the neck tonight. They turned away from something, but they kept themselves in range. And I took a Shishinken right through that muscle right there, all the way back to tag the spinal column. And they're walking away, and you okay? Kissy kiss on your neck, make it all go away. Okay. But he looked back at me and I said, did you know that you had that weak point? No. Did you know it could hurt like that? Well, how could I know it hurt like that if I didn't know I had it? See, those are the things we attack. Anyway, so what didn't I can't operate in the realm of the unknown. I can't do anything like that, right? So questions that help, right, are what do I not know about this? What am I missing? Right? But everybody believes that, look, this can't be that difficult to figure out. He moved his leg back there, and he hit that arm, and then he chopped that side of the neck. Ta-da! I don't need no fucking teacher to teach me how to do this, except that we don't know what muscles fired in what order. We don't know the angle. We don't know the why of the angle. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing to prevent him, not the uke who's sacrificing his body for the cause. What we need to do to keep the bad guy, the techie, the attacker, the killer, from screwing everything up. Okay, because the technique outlined on the scroll doesn't say anything about that. Right? The Densho make a huge assumption that you already know. And if you don't know, you'll find it out, or figure it out. Anyway, so these lists, right? So, and then once we do these things, right? Once we have these little micro lists and stuff, right? Then, and we work it, right? If after all those things have been fixed, done, added to the list, and worked, right? If things are still not working, then we might want to look at other people, places, things, whatever, okay? Because there might be other factors that either we're not aware of, or we're allowing to exist that are non-conducive to our success, like friends who are always inviting us to hang out, or we always say yes to requests for things. And so no matter, today I'm setting aside, I'm going to get this thing done, and hey, can you help me with it? And then we resent it, but we'd go and do it anyway because, like, I don't want honey to be upset at me, or I don't know, is honey going to be upset in 5 years if we're still in the same freaking position? I don't know, right? Ask honey. So anyway, if after those things, okay, I'm full of stories tonight, but I had a student that I took to Japan a couple of years back before COVID, and invited him to never come back again. Well, I didn't invite him to never come back. I told him to take a couple months off because I needed to seriously think about our teacher-student relationship. And he said, "You want me to never come back?" That's not what he said. He said, "I don't want to see you until after the new year." And it was like, I don't know, October, almost November then. Just need a couple of weeks, right? And then I get a call from another master teacher in this art. Like, I don't think I got a phone call. I got a DM on Facebook. What's the story about this guy? I'm like, seriously? So I just, why are you asking? Well, he said you kicked him out, and he was looking for a new teacher. I said, really? What'd you tell him? Well, I know you, and you wouldn't just kick somebody out. So what did he do to piss you off that badly? And he should probably figure out how to make it right. Yeah. And then he contacted 2 or 3 other teachers. So it was obvious that he didn't want the kind of corrective action he was getting. But this was a guy that he wasn't doing what he should have been doing, right? And he still isn't, right? And it's been years, right? But he blames other people, and even the devil, Satan, whatever, right? For the reason he is taking so long to get there, right? It's the decision making that he makes, right? It's fucking karma, right? So, but again, if after all those things, right, if we can't get those things to work, right, then I guess they can start blaming, which to me is actually a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of potential. Anyway, so because and the reason that they're probably not going to get there, right? Because chances are really freaking good that if they work that simple process, they will have eliminated the reasons, the hindrances, limitations, all those things that were stopping them, or they'll be so busy producing and enjoying the fruits of their labor and the results of what comes out of working the process properly, that they won't have the time or desire to worry about anyone else stopping them or worrying about what anybody else is doing. Okay? I don't have the time to do that. James, you have the time to do that? So we're so freaking focused on getting our shit together. Him individually for him, me individually for me, and then these projects that we're working on. I mean, I don't have time for that. Do you? Right? And if you do, then you can't be using the excuse that I don't have time to work on these things, because you have time to pull the bullshit anyway. So again, so I'm gonna circle back around this, but I really let's just jump into these 10. But before I do that, James, I lost James's picture here. You still on? Who's on? Who's questions, comments, whatever. See, there's my whatever again, right? And there's my right again, whatever, right? Let's see how many people complain about whatever and right is my tag thing, right? Whatever.
So Victor is on.
Holy shit. Victor, did you get my message that I sent you earlier to make sure you weren't dead? But thanks for being on, so I know that you're not dead. Hopefully you and the family survived okay. Anyway, maybe I have a message somewhere else waiting for me.
Victor said, from my experience, not everyone is ready for our type of training. My swords training class is not only a niche, but my form of vetting. I'm batting 300. I lose them quicker than I keep them, but the ones who stay are gems.
Absolutely, right? Nobody wants to hear like the old stories and stuff. Nobody even reads the older books that they wrote, let alone, whatever's going on today. Well, today he's teaching more philosophical stuff than anything else. For the last couple of years, it's been like spiritual stuff. I have something that I need to get out to my senior students. As a matter of fact, I might as well let me bring this up now. Wrong one. This one. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. So now this came out a while ago, but now you can't see this, and it's something that's going to go to my students and whatnot. But he did this scroll. Has a big picture of Bodhidharma, this guy that brought basically Zen type meditation to China, then into Japan and stuff like that, right? But this is the stuff that people want to dismiss, because again, if we define this stuff that we're doing as a martial art, then we only want to know about the physical moves. We only want to know about the cool kata and all that, right? But Hatsumi has a list of what he calls the treasures of the Bujinkan, which is really wrapped around taijutsu and that realm. But he also passed on the gojo, right? The treasure, preciousness of enlightenment. Ooh, right? And so he's got, everlasting giving, vow of the true way, nature, our natural resolve, transcendence of nature, and illumination of the awakening, which is Satori. But, who's got time for that shit? I mean, what's the next kata I need to learn? So anyway, but you're absolutely right. But, a long time ago, he has this stuff. I mean, books like Essence of Ninjutsu, the Grandmaster's Book of Ninja Training. There's a couple of other ones where he just spells shit out, right? Like, here's my take on things. And sometimes they're not so nice. Like, when this is way back in the early 80s, when he equated the process that he uses, and he suggested that all teachers use, right? It's like panning for gold, right? So, at the risk of being considered a McDojo, because people don't understand the process is being used, right? One, I need a lot of people that are having a martial arts seizure to pay tuition to keep the lights on in a place that is nice, that we can all train during inclement weather and all kinds of cool stuff, right? And I know how cold and heartless that sounds, but I can't make a student want something. I can inspire them. I can point to how far this goes, but it's that old you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink kind of thing, right? That it's like panning for gold, and you've got to do that a lot. You got to run a whole bunch of rocks and muck and shit through this screen, right, to hopefully find a couple of good nuggets. So you're right, but like you said, it's for your own venting. So, kick their ass and see who stays, right? I want to be a swords master. No, you don't, right? You want a day at the amusement park, buy your ticket, enjoy the ride, go home with the memories. Okay. And I'm saying you generally. So if it sticks, great. If not, okay. But some of these things, all of these things will point in that direction that if any of these things are in the way, then it is absolutely the fucking amusement park mentality, right? We used to call that having a martial arts seizure, or the amusement park mindset, right? We go to the dojo, right? We've prepaid our ticket or paid that day, however the curriculum or the tuition set up at your dojo, right? And God help you if your stuff is free, right? I know we're all looking for free. I'm not looking for free. But free has no value. The mind assigns zero value to it, right? Oh, I'm taking it seriously. Okay, fantastic, right? We'll see how many of these things you've already been able to take off. It's cool, right? This is a self-assessment. This is not me like hammering anybody. But we are a reflection of our habits, and our lives are a reflection of our belief system, BS, whatever. Okay? It's the way it works. It's universal justice. The universe is cold. Okay? Doesn't care about you any more than you care about you. And what you put out, it's the boomerang effect. What you put out consistently produces the results that you get. It's not difficult, right? We hang out with the wrong people consistently, well, then we're going to get the same results that they get. Okay. Anyway, so what else we got, James?
Just as a follow-up from Victor, he likes sexy cat videos, and he said,
I miss you, brother.
He said all was good.
Hopefully not too much damage. I checked in with Jeannie earlier as well, and I guess it was the brunt of it came through 30 miles south of where she lives, and luckily they just got shit and debris in the backyard and stuff, but it wasn't as bad as they thought. I guess it had waned by a certain point, or at least it hiccuped on the way past her. But man, you guys got hit like almost back to back to back, right? Now the Carolinas and Georgia and shit are dealing with that stuff. As a matter of fact, I've got one student. We just made him student of the month for November. He's been training for coming up on 4 months, I think. Really all in. I mean, he's actually been helping new students that are coming in after him. He's helping youth students to understand things and whatnot. Got run over by an SUV 2 weeks ago because he's on a team for helping with like emergency traumas and those kind of things. And here he was volunteered to be the injured guy. So he's laying down on the road, and so I backed this freaking thing up over him. So it went over his left ankle and his right hip socket thigh. Right. And so 180 couple of x-rays, CAT scans, all that kind of shit later, because they were so concerned, because where the tire went over at the thigh, femoral arteries in there and all kinds of branch tubes. And they needed to make sure he didn't have freaking, tears and whatnot that cause him to leak out. Or they also had to make sure that things were flowing consistently, because that's one of those places where if you get injured, the legs in general, right? People need to keep their legs healthy. That you get damaged and you get this little leak or a bleed or whatever, and then your body creates a clot, right? And then it breaks free, and the femoral artery shoots straight up to all the major stuff. So you throw a clot, and either end up having a heart attack because something close to your heart gets blocked, or you'll throw a stroke. So, but anyway, he was in class 3 days after that happened. I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" He goes, "I got to train. I can't not train just because, I'm injured. What the hell? What if I get injured and then I'm attacked during that healing period, right? I'm going to have to do the best I can, right?" So absolutely. I wish more students thought that way. But he came to me on Friday after class and said, "I'm not going to see you for a couple of weeks. I'll be back on this particular Thursday." I thought maybe, there was something with the legs or what. And, again, he's really involved with his church. And so his church is a part of this grouping of churches. And collectively, they have basically an EMS group that is broken up into several teams. And he's on one right now where they have mobile kitchens. Right? It's a whole freaking unit. And they haul a whole bunch of food, and they go down and they prepare it and make sure that people get fed, all that kind of stuff. And he was leaving to go down and relieve some of the other ones that from that group that were down there doing that. So I absolutely love it when I have students that are living that warrior ideal mentality or whatever, even if they wouldn't call it that, right? But cool stuff. So he'll be down he doesn't know exactly, he didn't know when he left because he was leaving at midnight on Friday night. Wasn't exactly sure if he'd end up, they had to drop things off in either, I think North Carolina, but he wasn't sure if that was their ultimate stopping point or if they were going to end up in South Carolina, Northern Georgia, whatever. But yeah. And James, do you remember Greg Bartlett from a bunch of years ago? He was in our long distance training program. Already had a high ranking black belt in some other system, and he was in things. And he's a member of one of those teams as well. And he's from Arkansas. And every year when they have freaking tornado damage in like Missouri, Arkansas, that tornado alley kind of thing, he is on a group where they drop whatever they're doing and go in to gather bodies, clear out shit, whatever. So cool stuff. So anyway, Victor, I'm glad you're doing well, brother. I wanted to make sure I checked in and make sure that everything's okay. None of your kitties got blown away, or knowing you, all the kitties in the area, they got blown around by the wind. They all got blown under your carport or under your car or whatever. And so now you have, 10 times more kittens than you had before. But I'm only guessing. Every time I turn around, he's like, "Guess what I found?" Anyway, they probably freaking know, right? The word's around, right? The Cat Haven, right? Dude, if you need like a safe house or whatever, man, you go see this guy, right? He's originally from New York, right? You go see him, he take care of you, man. Good food, good loving, right? Not that Floridian kittens sound like that, but anyway. That's all good. Anyway, what else we got, James?
Y checked in over on YouTube. Hi from Australia. Sorry I'm late. Had work. Hope everyone is well. This art.
You too, man. Heard of some crap going on down there as well. What the hell? Of course, it's not like a couple of years ago where the ocean lifted up and dropped a whole bunch of freaking gators and shit in people's backyards. Western Australia, Eastern, Northern, where are you from? I have a student in, he's a police officer in Perth, Western Australia. He's been around for, 15 years? Something like that.
Something
for
like
a long time. Jesus Christ. Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Very quickly, I'm going to run down through these things. Again, we'll come back to that karma thing again, because that's the law of the universe, right? I'm not playing religious games, right? Anybody can insert whatever, but right, the thing that we can pin down, right? So I'm going to be taking a look at 10 of these just fucking wrecking balls. Okay. Again, fairly short for each of these things, but I'm not just going to identify the problem, right? The negative or the wrong belief, the character trait that needs to be changed or whatever. And I'm coming at this again counterintuitively. I'm going to be speaking in the negative, right? But for each one, I will be identifying what we have to give up. Yep, it's on the mandala. Okay. Once we attain enlightenment, once we attain understanding, then we start to know not just what we need, but what we have to give up, because it's a misunderstood process, or a misunderstood part of growth is that to get to the next significant development level, you will have to drop 80% of what you think you know about yourself, about the world, about the thing you're working on, whatever. Only about 20% moves to the next level, because the way we are at any given level won't get us there. I use this analogy all the time, right? A strong man can tell a weak man what to do. They can help a weak man get stronger. But a strong man can't use the same process that they use to get where they are to become stronger. They need a different process, because if the process or the way we're doing things would get us there, then we'd already be there. Right? But ego doesn't want to give up on self. And so, but we need different knowledge, different habit patterns, different ways of looking at things, different ways of doing things, right? And that accounts for about 80%. I mean, at every significant growth level. And the first time I saw this, I watched Hatsumi Sensei do it, right? You know, when I was still in fairly earlier stages, I'm, learning the techniques and all that kind of stuff. And then like go back to Japan or go Taikai or something like that, or I see videos and I'm like, he just cut out like 3 moves. He's now doing it this way or whatever. And it wasn't until I was a couple of phases into that I realized, shit, he's no longer amassing things. He's dropping things that aren't necessary at that level, right? It's kind of like, and again, people who are only mirroring him, right, or imitating him, they're missing the process. They don't understand how it works. Okay. So Hatsumi Sensei moving right as she's in. So I don't even know why we learn all these. Come on. Did you read any of the earlier books? Did you see any of the earlier videos? Have you been training for more than, 6 months or 6 years or whatever? He did that stuff too. Okay. Well, then why isn't he doing the kamae? Because he doesn't need to. He knows his ability to move to the right point in time, timing, distancing, angling, all that kind of stuff, to know where he needs to be. They can't touch him. So he doesn't need a posture that has shielding. He doesn't need to remove his targets. As a matter of fact, he'll keep his freaking targets pointing right at them. So it's too good to be true. They'll keep coming. Okay? So he's now freaking playing with them. Okay? At a certain point, holding on to the same things just keeps you where you are. Right? So, but that's the official way to do it. Yeah, at that level. Okay, good. Fantastic. Okay? But one of the principles of growth is transcendence. Okay? That's like that transcendental meditation. No, it isn't. It's growing beyond where we previously thought was the ceiling. All right. Anyway, let me stop talking about that stuff and jump into these things. Again, negative, and you'll see whether it's a belief, a mindset, a habit, a perspective, whatever, you'll see. Okay. So that, and then for each one, what we have to give up. Right. So first one, and these are in no particular order. Right. So first one, laziness, including procrastination. Okay. So again, if these things, remember what the title was, right? 10 signs that you won't attain or achieve, you won't become a martial arts master. Okay. So laziness, including procrastination. This includes low effort, right? No drive or having the feeling of dread, right? Sometimes physically painful, right? I remember this as a teenager. Boy, once you go out and cut the grass. Okay. Well, I know I need to, or I'll get beaten. But, right, this, right? Got to do it. Right? So that feeling of dread wouldn't come up if we didn't see it as a chore. If we didn't have the aspiration, but we didn't have to want to do the work for it. Okay? So again, no drive or having the feeling of dread when we're asked to or having to do something. Okay. This also includes just aimless wandering based on the pleasure or at least stasis in the moment, right? An example of this is scrolling YouTube, watching video after video after video, right? One, thinking that we're going to remember it, but not doing anything with that. Right? It's just time wasting, right? Ego's being entertained. Ooh, I'm a part of such a cool, powerful martial art. Great. Okay. But I thought the goal was for me to become a powerful warrior protector or a master of this martial art, capable of the things that Hatsumi Sensei has pointed to or alluded to, or the other teachers have pointed to or alluded to, as a result of the teachings, lessons, and processes that are passed on within this martial art. But I could be wrong. Okay. So students / practitioners / people having a Ninjutsu martial arts seizure, right? You know what that means, right? It's a good idea today, but tomorrow it'll be something different, like, I don't know, alligator wrestling or underwater basket weaving or whatever, right? They even dislike the idea of having to get off the couch to refill their chip bowl and supersized drink trough, right? Because it requires movement and effort, right? Why can't those bastards just make bigger chip bags and bigger drink troughs? They do. It's called a 2-liter bottle, but I don't know. My wife has a joke one year, got me one of those freaking beer helmets, and it's still in the closet. So, like, I don't know how she forgot that I wasn't that kind of guy. But anyway, so what do we give up, right? What do we have to sacrifice? What's part of that 80% we have to give up for this? Right? Now, you can't make yourself want to do things, but what you can do is apply discipline to keep doing things until at least you become neutral about it, right? Because, again, I'll mention it later. There's something, and most of you who are regulars have heard me say this over and over again. What we need to give up here is easy. Okay? We're trying to be warriors. Okay? We give up easy. Well, the whole art's about easy. Yeah. Anybody ever notice the irony that, like, we have to work hard? We have to work like a motherfucker to get to easy? Right? Holy shit. Right? The training's not supposed to be easy. The results that we're able to produce once we go through the process is supposed to be easy. The last chapter, I think it's the last chapter of Hatsumi Sensei's first book that came out in English, Ninjutsu History and Tradition. Right? I think it's in that section, or is it way up front? Anyway, there's a section on the 3 aspects of a ninja, right? The Miwa Shinobu, right? The body capable of enduring, the Kokoro Shinobu, the mind capable of enduring, and the Shikiro Shinobu, right? The heart intention, right? But it's not just about persevering. It's about being able to reconcile and balance, what's going on out there, what's going on in here. So you got this microcosm, macrocosm kind of thing. But it's alluded to there. That might be at the front, right? In front of that book. It's alluded to there, and like almost every Japanese master teacher that I've worked with over the years has said this in some way at some point in my training. And that is, the training is supposed to be harder than anything that you could ever experience in life, which makes the rest of the shit a cakewalk. It doesn't make it challenging, or doesn't make it not make it challenging. Okay. But we give up easy. We give up the desire for things to be quick and easy. Okay. All right. Number 2, again, no particular order, just I'm going down through my list. Okay. So number 2 is the lack of ability to delay gratification. Okay. It's the lack of the ability or tendency toward delayed gratification. Okay. That means I can't hold off this thing. Right. So it's like being a kid in a candy store or a toy store, and that dollar is just burning a hole in their pocket. Right. I have $1, so I'm not going to only spend the $1 and not account for sales tax, right? Which means I don't have $1 to spend, but I'm going to spend that $1 and borrow the money for more from literal or figurative mom and dad, which will likely never get paid back, right? Or even come up until, like, they mention it, or when I ask for more again, right? Which, when those things pop up, then what I'm probably going to do is, I'll get angry because they brought it up, right? If we could just not talk about it, that'd be awesome. Okay. How dare those stingy, selfish bastards, right? Point out that I didn't live up to a promise, an obligation, a responsibility, whatever. Okay. And I know this isn't us because we're all enlightened. So none of this should have any kind of sting. But at its core, this is another form of a lack of self-discipline that causes this particular person, right, to waste time, to waste money, to waste other necessary resources needed to accomplish the goal or the things and activities, right? It's being wasted on things and activities which do not move them in the direction that produces the mastery they want. Well, so that's how you're talking about, like, never being comfortable, never being okay. No, you can be those things. Of course. It's the being those things more often than you're doing the shit that should move you in the direction. Because I don't know if you noticed or not, but we're all moving toward death. Right? And I don't know. Who knows? James and I have talked about this. I've talked about it with my Mikkyo students. Maybe the thing that gets in people's way is the conscious or unconscious belief that there's an eternity to do things. Right? Once I get past this veil of tears, then there'll be Wonderland. Well, okay, great. Right? I'm not discounting it. My belief system is my belief system. However, I do recognize that all the descriptions about where I'm going, maybe it's only me, but those descriptions are all based on having 5 sensory organs that, if we're leaving the body behind, we won't have. So I'm not sure what it's going to be like, which means that while I'm in this body, I can only experience things. I get a chance, right? And nobody's guaranteed anything, right? I just had a joke in class Friday night, I think, where we're talking about when you came out of the old cookie tube of life, right? Your owner's manual for your body and your system didn't come out afterwards. Even if it could, I'm not sure that mom would have appreciated the shape. But either way, right? So no warranty came out, none of that kind of stuff, right? Again, at its core, it's just, it's another form of no self-discipline. Okay, every successful person, right? Hudson has addressed these things, right? He's got this 3 times thing that he talks about as well. But every successful person, one of their character traits is delayed gratification. They will eat ramen or box macaroni and cheese for 2 years to amass the money they need to do this thing, or they will sell all the shit that is just, filling up closets and whatnot so that they can come up with the whatever. Okay. Again, this is really about, again, it's another form of lack of self-discipline, lack of self-control, focus, prioritization, and a lack of being able to commit to a specific outcome above all else. Right? Nothing else matters but this thing. Right? So if we're going to eliminate this thing, right, what do we give up? Right? We give up the attachment or the need or the drive to act on those momentary wants and distractions that are preventing the accumulation of benefits, right? Time, money, connections, whatever, right? That allow us to attain the goal sooner than later. Okay. One of the things I used to do with my kids, right? We, go to the mall, go whatever. Kids, by their very nature, I want that. I want that. Okay. So, I also know that it's usually momentary, right? Well, how do I know that my child really wants it and it's not just a momentary thing? Maybe you're just guessing, right? It seems kind of mean as a parent for you to decide what your kid really wants or what they do. No, they tell me. And I don't mean logically, because a bunch of their functions, a bunch of the brain functions haven't even formed yet, which is my big problem with people pushing certain things on and saying that kids can make fucking decisions and whatnot, when things like their discernment faculty, not only has it not been switched on till somewhere between the ages of 18 and 25, but it hasn't even grown yet. I know they don't think that's true. And most adults talk to kids like they've got an adult brain in a freaking kid's body. Not my fault, right? But we would go into the store and I'd let my daughters look around and whatnot, and I'd say, look, okay, today you can get something for $5, whatever. But they, point at this other thing. They go, wow, I really like that. I go, well, whatever's coming up, right? Easter's coming up, Christmas coming up, birthday's coming up, or whatever. Maybe then. And I got a little bit of resistance in the beginning, but see, what I was waiting for was, I know how this momentary stuff works. There's this glitter right there in front of them. Right? The way my kids told me that they really wanted something was they'd keep asking for it. And not just because we were in the store right in front of it, or because a commercial came on with that thing. It would end up on their Christmas list, or it would end up on a want list. They would ask again and again and again. It was momentary. They wouldn't ask for it again. I might bring it up later and they'd be like, man, because something else caught their attention, right? So those things are fleeting in our brains too, okay? So we have to be able to not do things that we think we can't live without, because those things are draining resources that are needed for this other thing that will produce way more benefits. Okay. Again, I get these comments all the time from people like, Sensei, you don't understand, your life has been, motherfucker, I've worked as a seasonal employee in a cannery for 2.5 years while I was setting up a private investigation agency. And originally I just had a training group with the school, with the stuff. And I decided to pull the trigger one day and, right, you know what, we're going to have a full-time professional school. But I worked at the cannery for minimum wage, right? And I turned down really good jobs, right? But those jobs would have demanded that I have little to no time for training to get to a specific level as quickly as possible. And I get it, right? The money's a good allure, the honey talking in your ear and all that's good allure or whatever. But if I put all my eggs in this basket and I get this taken care of, then I have more choices where one thing is not inhibiting others. I don't end up, and I don't begrudge anybody who has done this thing. I get it. I get how the belief of the masses who, right, have opted for mediocrity. Yeah, my paycheck's not mediocre. Well, okay, but do you have the time to enjoy it? Okay, so I get it, but I didn't have to be one of those people that were writing an email or checking in with an instructor because, like, I was training for a while and then life got in the way, and now it's 20, 30 years later, and I'm dreaming about doing what I could in my teens or my early 20s, but I've got arthritis. I've got, well, lucky you. Guess what? Me too. Right. So either way, right. And again, this is not a condemnation or anything. This is an assessment, and this is a list. And yes, it's counterintuitive, but look, we can want to do things, and we can have the to-do list, do these things, and it will get you there. That's bullshit. Yes, if you do these things, they will get you there, as long as you're not like Jacob Marley and have a shit ton of freaking weights hanging off of you, holding you back. Self-induced or self-imposed limitations or self-created habits or whatever, right? Very often, just like with Hatsumi Sensei, breaking through to those upper levels that people like fawn over, right? A good part, right, of my training in this art has been watching him drop the unnecessary, because he got to a certain point with certain skills, and there was no going forward unless we, right? Because you're not training to be a beginner. You're not training to be intermediate. Shit, you're not even training to be, advanced. You're training to be the master. That every movement, right, is effortless, looks like fucking magic, right? So anyway, right, we give up momentary wants and distractions, preventing the accumulation of the benefits or resources or whatever it is that we need that allow us to attain that goal. Right? As long as we're putting a drain on ourselves, as long as we're the ones causing the bleed in finances or time or whatever, then significant and beneficial relationships where they're supportive of, then, right? Again, this all goes back to the law of karma, right? Cause and effect, right? So number 3, here's another damaging one, right? A good enough mindset. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, this is also known as the law of low expectations for themselves, their life, whatever. Okay, it's another way of saying, like, they want things to be easy, but good enough. Good enough is not going to get you into a realm that's significantly better, more powerful, or whatever than what we currently have. Now, can we take a momentary pause and go, okay, this is good enough to get my bearings. I'm going to enjoy the benefits of this level before I take the next step. Yeah, because once we're at that next level, we should take a pause, but we're not doing things. Okay, all right. I'm here. What will get in the way of that next thing? Right? What do I have to learn? What new habits? Because at every level, it's still the 80-20 rule. At every level, we have to figure out what of the 80% of the me that's here has to be dropped. Right? There's a core that's going to move on, but what do I need? So that's you understand. You are so lucky. Bullshit. Right? To have teachers tell me, look, if you're not going to do this stuff, if you're not going to focus on what you need to get to this new level, there's the damn door. If you think this other martial art that you keep tacking on and modifying things, right? You must not think that this stuff works as is, that it has to be modified. Well, if you think it has to be modified, then go do that other fucking thing that you think works better. Okay? Those are the words I heard, not just because they were implied. Okay? I choose the teachers that like kicked me in the ass, and so anyway, All right, so good enough mindset. Okay, you can't produce mastery, right, or become a master by aiming for mediocrity or less, right? Again, right, laziness. I covered that at number one. Okay, so there's this thing I keep hearing it, and things are how we define them. So this will be an interesting little twist. You know the phrase "good enough for government work"? Yeah, we know what it means, but do we know what it meant originally before it got bastardized? Good enough for government work is the good enough mindset, right? But it's used all the time. But originally, it meant really top quality work, really okay, because it was created during a time when all of our government buildings made out of marble and all that kind of shit were being built. Okay? If you've ever been to DC, if you've ever been to any places where Capitol buildings or whatnot, and you're going to have to look past the current employees who are the painters and whatever that are doing good enough for upkeep, because nothing was more disappointing than going into the visitors wing of the White House one year. My wife needed to go, and going in and seeing how fucked up the painting, the paint, whenever they would do touch-ups and stuff, that paint hadn't been freaking ground down or scraped or whatever in who knows how fucking long, right? I mean, it was just, and then paint streaked on the windows. Nobody trimmed it properly. This is supposed to be the symbol of the heart of our country. And not only is that the work that's being done by the people responsible for dipping and spreading paint from a brush, but the jackwagons who go behind as management, given their okay that's done. Seriously? What the fuck? Talk about disappointment. Jesus criminy. I looked at my wife and I'm like, I know you're like awe-stricken, but I would never hire these motherfuckers to even paint like anything around our house. And I certainly don't see my house in the same light that I see the White House. It was just, wow. Seriously? So anyway, but can you imagine the good enough or the mediocrity based mindset building these huge things that have just like lasted the test of time? Okay, the term originally meant it meant you went above and beyond. This is like spectacular. I don't know where the hell it got changed, but it sure did affect a whole bunch of people who have certain jobs. And it becomes like a virus, which is why anybody who helps around the dojo, anybody who I employ or whatever, if I realize that, and one, I try to do it from in-house because they have a vested interest in the dojo doing well. But if I realize I've made an error and they've got that kind of a freaking mindset, I'll cut them loose. Okay? Because good enough does not grow things. Good enough barely keeps it alive. Okay? So, what do we need to give up? We need to give up the willingness to be average. We need to give up the delusion that we're actually anything more than average once we take a good hard look in the mirror. And here's the thing, right? Everybody believes that they're unique. Everybody believes that they're not average, which means by its very definition, they're average. If everybody believes that they're above average, if everybody believes that their situation is unique, it's special, whatever, then You're not unique or special, right? And ultimately we all are, right? But anyway, so we need to give up that willingness to be average, or that willingness to be good enough, right? So number 4, no or vague plan. This goes for goals. This goes for vision for the outcome, right? We don't have one. Or it's really fucking vague, right? I want to be a black belt in Ninjutsu. What does that mean? What's behind the black belt? Well, okay. That goes for any goal, right? I've talked about this in the past, right? Man, I really want to train in the martial arts. Awesome. Sign up for a class. Take class. Never go back. Congratulations. You're successful. You've trained in the martial arts. Well, that's not what I meant. Well, then you need to define it differently, because as we define things at the beginning of the whole phase, the whole process, right perspective, right view, right belief, because that in and of itself conditions thoughts, words, plans, actions, effort, livelihood, what we're aware of, consciousness, all that. It's what leads. Okay. In Ninjutsu, that's how you freaking control people. That's what's behind Tenkan Ho, this disguising truth and falsehood, right? When most people think of controlling people, they think in terms of force, right? How do I get him to do these things? Right? What do I need to say? What do I need to, right? How do I impose a or else kind of thing, right? How do I imply or employ the my way or the highway thing so that they have to do it, right? How do I get laws passed so they have to like me or accept me for who I am? Fuck you. What makes you special? Not you, right? Those people. But if you're that person, then yeah, you too. Anyway, so that shit really irritates the shit out of me. How special does somebody have to believe that they are, that the whole world gets to have to freaking bend over, take it up the ass, and comply because they want to believe something, or that's the only thing that'll make them feel good, or they're going to shit their pants and have a meltdown? How high do they have to think of themselves that everybody else can just fuck off and die? Because I will beat you or punish you or have the government do it if you don't fill in the blank. Right? I don't know. Certainly enough warriors that stand on that side just as much as there are that stand on the other side. Right? So this vagueness thing, right? The way we define things, right, determines everything about how we're going to go through this Kyujutsu Tenkan. You want to control somebody? The ninja's way of controlling somebody is to control their beliefs or perspective or perceptions about what's going on or what's true about that thing. And then they will, that conditions their thoughts, their words, their plans, their act, right? And they'll believe that it was their fucking idea. That's the cool shit, right? No force at all. But you also have to know how to speak their listen. And that's why we have the 5 weaknesses, the 5 needs, right? This is all under the psychological warfare stuff. That if you know what they can't not live without, and what they absolutely must have, and what their biggest fears are, having, not having to deal with, whatever, and you step in as either the provider or the guardian against, there is nothing or no one you can't not have. And this is why it's really important to have a high moral and ethical base, because this stuff is neutral, right? But this vagueness, right? We need to have a clear plan, right? I had a student once tell me that they wanted to be their goal was to be an 8th degree black belt. I said, why 8th degree? Because that's where you are right now. Okay, what does that mean? Well, I can see how you do things and how you operate and stuff, and I want to be able to do those things. And the only label I have to put on that is this rank that you are right now. Okay, fair enough. that's a place to start. Now we're going to go through the curriculum so that you know what builds that. Okay. Rather than, swapping out boxes of toys for different belt colors. Right. That's at least closer. Right. But have you ever seen like an old house or a shed or whatever, right? That was built obviously without a plan, right? Where stuff is just freaking nailed together. Okay. I remember one time we were doing a haunted house at the school. It was one of our major yearly promotional things. Turned the whole freaking dojo. Now I've always had multiple rooms in my dojo, but we literally built a maze inside. We had students that would get lost because they couldn't orient themselves to where they were. So we'd have all these planning meetings, and we had this one scare that we set up where they would have to go through this one tunnel, and they came out into this one room, and it was a funeral parlor. And so they realized they crawled in under the stand where the casket was. Okay. And usually I volunteer to be like the body, because they can do whatever they want. They can poke at me, they can whatever, and I don't move. And then I just sit up straight and turn my head and look at them, grown men pee themselves and all that. But anyway, they had to crawl into this one. And then we had somebody had donated this the front of a gas fireplace. So all the guts were out of it and stuff, but it was this huge concrete wire framed kind of thing that we could again turn into another tunnel. And so we had this against this other wall, so they had to get down and go into there. And then as they were standing up on the other side, this wall gave way and fell, and then it would stop part way. So it just, like, the whole feeling was shit, right? This thing's falling down. Anyway, the guy that I had building it, I can walk into this room, and this wall is like 8-10 feet high, and it's like this whole wide thing, right? 2x4 framing. We had cardboard, and then we attached like a front face to these kind of things. So, but this wood's still friggin' expensive, or not expensive, heavy. And so I go in, and he's got like 2 chains attached to the side that would stop it from falling, right? And the chains are only maybe 8 inches long as they're attached, and it's anchored into the floor. And I said, dude, that's not going to work. And he snapped. I've been in fucking construction for all these years and stuff, and wish people would stop fucking telling me how to do things and stuff. And I walked over and I flipped the latch, and the thing fell and ripped the anchors out of the floor because the physics wasn't right. I looked at him and said, 1, as a student, don't ever fucking talk to me like that again. And 2, I may not have ever done construction, but I understand physics. He was quiet the rest of the time. He readjusted and rethought things. But the point is that he confused building shit based on other people's plans with the ability to create and plan the thing to be built. It's not the same. Just like I can learn a kata and not understand what makes the kata work, when it would be best applied or executed, what situations it should never be even an option, right? The tactical manipulation that's going on, the strategic control that's going on, all that kind of stuff, right? I can learn a kamae and still not know, right? The feeling of the kamae, what drives it, how and what fight styles it's a perfect match to, and what styles I should never fucking use that, because the way that guy does things, it'll just break right through, right? I can learn these things and never know the things that are really important, right? So anyway, so having a goal of earning a black belt is vague. It's really fucking vague, or the next level black belt or whatever. Okay. This is what causes people to come to me and like, they want to earn their next level black belt. And I go, well, I'd have to see what you have already, because if you want that level of black belt from me, I have certain standards. Yeah, I know, but I've been around this long and I learned this, that. Okay, here's my lesson plan, or here's my curriculum. Well, I didn't learn half this stuff. Then how can I promote you to second degree or fourth degree or whatever if you don't know half the stuff that I require for first degree or whatever? Right? See there, I used our whatever and right again, just in case anybody forgot. So even more vague, again, is not knowing what goes behind that black belt, not knowing the difference between black belt levels other than time or kata or whatever. Even more vague than that is thinking that we can figure out a system like ninjutsu, right? When nothing is ever what it looks like, right? We can figure that out by ourselves. Well, I've been in martial arts before. Yeah, okay. James, you remember the guy? Well, he took his shit off of our stuff. He's the guy that was posting that I'm fake and all that kind of stuff, and other people were dealing with him. Well, apparently he took all of his shit down, but he made a comment. So he called me fake, and people were like, "Well, how do you know?" Well, I've been teaching for 50 years in some Chinese kung fu, Chin Na, Big Dong, long ass name, right? I have no idea, right? And somebody finally piped up and said, "Oh, but so you've been teaching ninjutsu?" No, I would never do that. Well, you just said that you've been teaching for 50 years, so you know the difference between real and fake. Or are you just gauging it based on your style and everything else is wrong? Well, it's really easy to start an argument, and a whole different thing to maintain the logic that created it. Anyway, so sorry, again, I'm still going through all these notes here, self-imposed. What do I do? What to do, James? What to do? No vague, where nothing's ever. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's what I said. There's ever what it looks like, and it can't be conveyed. Hatsumi Sensei said this. I absolutely do believe this, right? That this stuff cannot be adequately conveyed, if at all, through kata or physical demonstrations or words in a book or short clips on YouTube. Collectively, things get hinted at, but it's the work that helps to expose things and put things all together. Right? Here's an example. I just had a student, one of my long distance students, submit a video review, right? A couple of techniques out of, and it's just mod 1, right? So he was demonstrating what he thinks he sees or understands, but brief written outlines, video clip lessons and whatnot. And like the video, the current ones was escapes from double wrist grabs. Like you're trying to calm this guy down, right? You're trying to de-escalate. They grab a hold of you, that kind of thing, right? And while he is breaking free from the wrist grabs, Tehodoki, right? I can't say that he's not doing that, but he's using force. Chikara Kurube, remember that from the beginning, right? That matching force. He's using that instead of strategy and technique. So he's stiff at the release point, which means if there's a quick follow-up, he has to relax muscles to move them, right? That's going to slow him down. He's not covered in the way he's doing it, right? And he's in range for an easy follow-up. So what do you want me to judge you on? You want me to judge you on the fact that you broke your wrist free, or the fact that you executed on proper taijutsu so that you freed yourself from the restraint, simultaneously moving yourself out of range, simultaneously covering targets, and simultaneously chambering or being in a position where you can block or deliver a follow-up of your own. I mean, that's Tai Sabaki. Tai Sabaki, people have roughly translated as body movement. I guess it works. Evasion, footwork. But Tai Sabaki literally means body management. And correct Tai Sabaki is doing 4 things in one move. I moved to that naname point, right? But I'm doing 4 things at the same time. Right? I'm evading or escaping from whatever that thing is, right? I am closing off all my targets. I'm opening up all his targets. I guess maybe there's more. I'm making it more difficult for him to get at me and making it easier for me to deliver my technique on him. One move, 4 or 5 things in that thing. So again, mirror side wrist grab, everybody knows this. And again, if you guys are on audio only, you'll have to kind of imagine. But if somebody grabs me in a mirror side wrist grab, right? So same side, right? Like we're looking at a mirror. So their left hand to my right hand, right? Everybody knows this one in the martial arts or self-defense classes where we pull that hand out and we break it free. Great. Okay. What did I just give him? Every move that I make should take something from him and should give me a greater advantage because he lost it. And every move I make should continue to take things away and never give him back something I previously took, like his balance or whatever. Okay. So this muscle for muscle, right? This form of chikare kurube, right? Matching force. Yeah, I can break free, but as soon as it springs free, inertia is carrying my arm this way, which means I lose guard for a second. Okay. But what if I could do things in a way where I use leverage and I simultaneously break the grip, pull him off balance without pulling, my body weight does that, position myself so that I can cover against a quick follow-up if he's able to do it, and chamber my arm so that when he slips into range, I don't have to chamber to strike, right? So if I use leverage to do that, then I've done 4 things with one move. It might be a little bit different. Okay. So again, for those of you who are in Shinobi-kai and the Ninpo Masterclass and the Platinum Elite and Plus programs and whatnot, tomorrow's Masterclass, right? Tomorrow's Shinobi-kai class at the dojo. We're pulling out some of these Mod 1 things and making sure that they've grown with your rank. So we're gonna look at them from a 2nd to 4th degree black belt level, right? To see what kind of control that kata was teaching. Yeah, but you didn't require that at white to yellow belt or yellow to, yeah, of course I didn't, right? Because the student coordination, balance, full understanding of things, right? But I do cover those 4 things I laid out, okay? I want to be in a position where every move, right? It's not just about releasing the hand. It's about surviving the onslaught. Because if we think that freeing the grip is going to make him go, that was fucking awesome, dude. Like, where do you train? Do you have a business card? Do you have a brochure? That'd be awesome, man. Can I do? No, he wanted to fucking hurt you. So when you break free that easily, he's going to want to jack you. Okay. So if we're not covered for that and our only focus was on breaking free with the grip, and I get it, beginners have to start somewhere. I get it, but that's not the requirement for the promotion. The requirement is go to kamae, right? I think I mentioned this. Was it, I don't know, James, when was it, last week? Or maybe it was Whiteboard Wednesday, when I covered the 3 primary goals of the, I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this episode, the 3 primary goals of the 6-week intro that we do, right? Be hard to hit, be hard to hold on to, and be hard to break. Hard to hit is all about evasion. But if he does get a hold of me, I need to break free of that as quickly as possible in a strategically sound position so that I'm back to being able to evade, right? The hard to break is for break falls and stuff, just in case I trip while I'm evading, he shoves me. When I break free or I'm backing away from him, I stumble over something. If I fall down and break myself because I can't do break falls, well, then I die. So again, this mindset and the set of beliefs is caused either because we already think we know enough, or we're being imperative and just thinking we can throw shit at the wall and have it all work out. Okay. So again, it's another form of laziness, not just doing nothing, but wanting things to be over quickly, right? Aiming for good enough, getting there, right? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? If you're a parent, you know what the hell that feels like. If you're a teacher, hopefully you know what that feels like as well, because it'll change the way you do things. Okay. So what do we give up? We give up the willingness and desire to fly by the seat of our fucking pants. Okay. We give up the desire to be comfortable with ignorance-based action. And what I mean by ignorance here is not stupidity. It's we don't know any better. Right? You go to Yusuke Sensei's dojo, the black belts. I was just doing this again with somebody in class. Friday. Oh, people were frustrating me, right? I go over and I take a boken out of somebody's hand and they go, if we were in Yusuke Sensei's dojo and the senior black belts were coming over to help you, this is pretty much the way it looks. They take that, they look at you and they go, ha ha ha, and they laugh at you and they say, this is your style. And then they make the same mistake, right? And then they go, this is correct style. And then they do the technique and whatever. And then they laugh at you again and go, maybe you'll get it. I know. That's why most people don't continue training Yusuke Sensei's dojo. They go somewhere else because they don't get spoken to that way. Everything is, okay, good, next. Okay, good, next. Okay. Because some of the teachers are okay with leaving us to our own devices because universal justice is a big part of this art. Right? Anyway, quick. Number 5, this personality. If you want to, another sign of not ever becoming a martial arts master is we avoid pressure and discomfort. Okay, I've said this before. Comfort is the poison of success. Right? If there's no reason to get it done now, okay. So these folks will they'll share cool sounding memes like bleed more in training and you don't bleed as much on the street, right? And all those kind of shit, right? But they don't live it in their lives or their training, right? Especially with skills and techniques and the like, right? Because the techniques are uncomfortable or because they can't do them well or because they're confusing, which makes them uncomfortable. And so we avoid discomfort. Anyway, right? It's like when students are, they go from mod 1, which, I tell them bent knees, those kind of things, but they move into mod 2. I'm like, drop 4 inches farther. Your hip should be riding just above the line that your knees create when you're in a deep combat posture. The kind of posture you need to be on if you're on wet, dew-covered grass, or it just rained, or wet tile, or loose stone, muddy, bloody battlefield, whatever, right? So, and then they're, shit, this is making my legs hurt. Yeah, you don't want to know when that's going to stop. When your legs muscles are finally strong enough to carry your body around. If my legs are strong enough to carry this fat ass around, everybody that's calling me fat has no fucking excuse. And if their legs aren't, if somebody leaves class and they're not, I would say, above 5th dan, they leave class and their abs, lower abs, thighs, and depending on the person, calves, don't feel like they've been doing squats and crunches all class, they didn't do it right. Didn't do it right. So again, it's constantly being pointed out that I'm fat, like duh, right? And yet I'm doing the movements correctly. because my legs are strong enough to carry the fat guy around. Do my legs still hurt? Yeah, because my arthritis in my joints fucking hurts, right? Not because I lay around and my leg muscles are too weak to carry my body around, right? So what do we give up? We give up comfort and justifying excuses. Number 6, lack of discipline. We've talked about multiple types of discipline so far. Again, disciplines in several of these points in different forms. In this sense, what I mean is there's no consistently applied effort, right? Everything is hit and miss, right? We don't have a set practice routine. We don't have things that we're consistently working on now until we can at least hit 80% proficiency at this particular level before we go practicing something else, or we keep practicing the same things that we're already good at, which is entertaining ego, and we're not working the shit that we don't like, right? So again, everything's hit and miss. We're easily distracted, right? We see motivation, right? You know, word motivation. I just don't feel motivated, dude. We see motivation as a feeling that we wait for before doing what must be done. Okay. And this is what I alluded to earlier, right? It's not about liking it, right? It's not about not liking it. It's not about whether it feels good or bad. Right? Doing something that has to do, or that will get us to that goal. It's a stepping stone. It's a rung on the ladder, whatever. It has nothing to do with like, dislike, feel good, feel bad, whatever. Waiting for motivation to happen. The motivation is already there because I want that goddamn goal. I want that ability, right? And so the reason I do it is because it's fucking necessary. Right? This is the hard part about discipline. Doing it regardless of whether or not we feel like it. It's necessary. We know it's necessary. We know that we know it's necessary because it fucking gnaws at us when we plan to do it and then we don't. Do it tomorrow. Right? Anybody that knows about the Tibetan Wheel of Life, right? These six realms, and there's a 12-fold chain dependent origination around or whatever. There's this big ass red demon holding on to this thing, right? Biting on it. Okay. That's the same character that's down in the hell realm. It's Yama or Yamantaka, okay? Lord of the hell realm and all that kind of stuff. You know, all the woo-woo stuff aside, okay? That is symbolic personification or representation of our conscience, right? It's that thing that knows when we're bullshitting or we're ducking, whatever, okay? So again, you know, it's either playing that little game or it seeks distractions, drugs, alcohol, binge watching Netflix, whatever, right? So, but this there's some signs to this, right? In Mikkyo, we have the 4 right efforts, right? Everybody knows about right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path, but in Mikkyo, we dive deeper into it, 4 right efforts, right? And so the person who's I'm going to use the word guilty of this kind of thing, right? They won't actively avoid the negative things that they know get in the way, right? They don't actively work to eliminate or reduce the negative that's already going on. They don't actively try to produce produce more of the positive that's already going on, and they don't try to add anything, right? How do you do that? Well, often they're mirrors. If I eliminate binge watching Netflix, then I automatically produce time that I didn't have while I had that negative habit, okay? So what do we give up? We give up the belief that busy or doing something is the same as properly applied discipline and effort, okay? If we don't have a lesson plan or a definitive curriculum to follow, then we're just running around doing whatever. right? And in all honesty, if you've been doing the same kata for more than 2 months or 2 belt ranks or whatever, and it's still being done the same way, there's no growth. Right? We're not looking to increase in a kata, right? Increasing the positive is figuring out how to move more freely. How do I increase the power in a strike without doing more work? Eliminating or reducing the negative is things like reducing the amount of tension in my body as I'm moving, reducing the number of muscles that are being used to apply a certain move, because I'm trying to figure out which are the only ones that I need, which ones govern the arm moving in that direction. When do I apply tension and how much? Instead of just writing it off because, well, I learned it step by step. So got that one. All right, number 7, quick. This another trait here of somebody who's not going to be a martial arts master is somebody who avoids responsibility for their life, their well-being, their decisions, their actions, whatever. Okay. Again, it's always someone else's fault. Right. My teachers in this art were adamant about getting us to take responsibility for everything that happens to us, around us, and within our lives. Does that mean that other people don't contribute things? Other people didn't come at us? Other people didn't intentionally try to trip us up? Nope. But we either let those people into our lives in the first place, we haven't cut them out because they routinely do shit like that, or we weren't, I don't know, paying attention or equipped. I mean, if we keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and this is not easy. I'm not telling anybody that it's easy. This is not easy. Okay? The early part of my training with the teachers that I chose to not walk away from so I could find somebody else who was nice to me was hell. And it wasn't hell on the body. I mean, I was in the military. So the body, did I have bruises originally? Yeah, okay. But some things got tweaked, whatever. But the body adapts. Oh, the head and the heart. Wow. I knew I had to escape that past because I didn't have great role models. But fuck. Wow. Okay. And all these things on this list, by the way, yeah, me too. Not today, but yeah, me too. Okay. So this is not me preaching. This is the way it is, right? So if others are to blame, right? Again, we let them into our lives in the first place. If the system is to blame, right? System is corrupt and whatever. Okay. Then we figure out how the system works instead of trying to swim upstream. Okay. We were taught that as ninja, you don't break the laws. You don't break the rules. What you do is you learn and know the laws as well as or better than those who wrote them, and then use them to your advantage. They, the powers that be that we all like to blame, right, may not like what you're doing, but they won't be able to stop you because they need the same freaking loopholes in them to do what they do, and that's why they put them there, right? Everybody wants to just drain their freaking energy. Let's just keep focusing on the corruption. Let's keep focusing on the deceit. Let's keep focusing on the game is rigged. Well, okay, but until you develop a sufficient amount of power to be able to do anything about it, how about if we stop swimming upstream, or just resign ourselves to the fact that we're just going to fucking just keep doing these things here, and we're not going to express any kind of personal power. I mean, that would be the authentic, honest thing to do. But anyway, so what are we giving up, right? We're giving up blaming, right? Our life, our responsibility for everything that happens in it to it and around it. Okay. Even if I got jumped and beat the shit out of at the corner of 4th and Elm at 2 p.m. yesterday, I chose to be at 4th and Elm at 2 p.m. Well, so I'd say there's a lot of random stuff that, as soon as we start taking responsibility for more and more things, that's, even if we failed, that's a huge part of personal empowerment. Because we're not looking for any kind of fucking savior or the police or whatever to swoop in and fix it. Okay. Number 8, right? We can be a complainer rather than a problem solver, right? We can have the complainer rather than problem solver mindset, okay? It's victim mentality, right? Things are out of my control. We attain mastery. We don't win it like winning the lottery. Right. Okay. Here's a cool little thing, right? I'm going to equate this to millionaires, right? People like to talk about the 1%, except that, and nobody's going to want to hear this. The people on welfare in this country, for a family of 4, if we extend that globally, they're in the 1% of the population of the world. So what's our measuring device? But let's equate this to millionaires, okay? 44%, this is statistically shown, 44% of all millionaires die broke and poor because they got $1 million, but didn't have the discipline, skill sets, or whatever they needed to hold on to it or to make it grow. Sports players, actors, whatever. Okay. Being able to attain something and being able to hold on to it are two completely different things, and they're not mutually inclusive. Okay. The person in this realm that's not going to make it, they also believe that they can think anything they want in their head as long as they don't say it out loud or act on it. Right. I can think anything I want. As long as I don't say it or do it, don't count. Yeah, it does. Because it's real, if for nobody else than you. And it conditions your thoughts and your words. And I've been through this over and over again, right? So to handle this, we need to give up time-wasting, angry, divisive, and victim mentality-based thoughts and speech. Okay? Can't complain about the haters when we're even hating haters. Okay? James, what were we talking about earlier with people go about things a certain way, right? To force people to do things, right? But at the same time, they're against bullying, but meanwhile they're engaged in bullying. It's just a different form, right? That's interesting. Okay, it's like people that, right, I recognize, and I use it, I need it, and all that, and I also recognize that there's a part of me that has to be okay with slavery. Because the lithium batteries and all of these things come out of mines that they're operated, no safety equipment, whatever, in third world countries, right? They're paid little to nothing. Okay, someone cannot simultaneously be absolutely against slavery and use anything like this. So being authentic is, I understand what's going on. I'm just not in a position in my life right now to be able to do anything about that. And I need this as a part of my tool set to get me closer to that, so I might be able to do something. But complaining about it, dwelling on it, typing out shit on Facebook and all that kind of stuff is wasting time that I need to get closer to something else. So anyway, again, we give up time-wasting, angry, divisive, and victim mentality-based thoughts and speech. All right, number 9, okay? The person who's not going to make it is untrainable. Right? They think they already know everything. They won't take positive feedback or criticism. They become defensive even when they ask for it and get it. They always need to have things sugar-coated or told that they're right. And they avoid learning new skill sets that they don't think are necessary. Okay. Even when being told by a master teacher, mentor, or role model, doing what they want to be doing, that it's necessary to get where they want to go. Such like people jumping churches because they don't like the way the pastor teaches or the priest is teaching the sermons, right? Okay, well, if you're already godlike and you already translate the Bible, why the fuck do you need a church? Why do you need to go and present? You already know. Right? So, not you, because again, you guys are all enlightened. So, what we give up here is we give up the belief that we know everything. Actually, right, if we really want to do this right, we give up the belief that we know anything at all. Right? And everything we think we know is now in question. Okay. I don't mean you throw it all away, but how do we know it's true? Well, because I learned it in this university class, or I learned it in that martial arts class, and I learned it from that teacher. Are you at a level where you know that what they taught you was right? Constantly has to be checked and rechecked. Right? So what do we give up? Again, we give up the belief that we know everything. Okay. So again, ego doesn't like this because we lose our quote unquote ground. That's what I call it. It's called the Vajrayana or Mikkyo. We give up, we lose our ground, which if everything is not going your way, is shaky anyway. This goes back to that belief system we talked about, right? If we really had our shit together and our belief system was working, and like we had control of this cause and effect thing, then we should already be where we want to be. Right? I don't know that it's there anymore because most of my stuff is automated, but I used to have a quote that was synthesized from many different teachings, but leads into this personal responsibility, karma, the cause and effect thing, and decision making. It used to be at the bottom of all my emails, and it said, in every moment, we are either exactly what we want to be, or exactly what we have allowed ourselves to become. If we can start with that truth, then anyway. So it's simple, right? Old ideas are not. These are well over 2,500 years old. Actually, they're more like over 4,000 years old, right? So yeah, people are like, that's an old idea. Yeah, it's a really fucking old idea, but old ideas that are still around, why are they still around? It's either massive gnosis or there's something to it, okay? So again, this is all based on the law of karma, of cause and effect, which is like gravity, right? And living here on Earth, right? None of us can get away from it, right? None of us is not subject to these things, right? The problem is that people stress about, or they complain about not getting, they obsess over, and they fear not getting the outcome, all while being oblivious to or avoiding the pieces in the process that are necessary for producing the outcome, right? Or even just like dropping the shit that's in the way, right? So anyway, let's kind of wrap this up. Shrey Sensei, one of the Japanese master teachers that I've worked with for a long time, his huge thing, his primary focus is on balance, right? And he's constantly reminding students, right? And this is a karma thing. Good action do, good situation make, right? Bad or no action do, then bad or no change in the situation, right? And again, that's Japanese, English words, Japanese syntax, right? So good actions, unless they're being acted on by negative conditioning things, produce good outcomes, good situations, right? Bad, negative, or inhibiting or limiting actions, right? Or no action at all, makes the same kind of thing, okay? And the law of karma is that karma, once set in motion, always has to play itself out. Okay, so we may be doing the right things and we may have dropped things or whatever, but there's still shit that could be getting in the way. right? Because we put them into motion in the past. So it can take a while. It's kind of like these proteins that are in your muscles that break the fat molecules so that your muscles can burn them as fuel, right? If you don't exercise for a long time, your body will reallocate those things for repair of organs and whatnot when you sleep, because you don't fucking need them anyway, right? These enzymes are protein chains, right? And so once we start exercising, we might have to exercise for a couple of freaking weeks. It can take up to 13 weeks of consistent exercise to convince your body that you're actually serious, or it'll put the damn things back so that you can start metabolizing things properly. I know I have weird hobbies. Okay. So again, the secret, if there is one, right, is to focus on the process consistently, purposefully, and intentionally, because it's designed to naturally produce the outcome. Okay. Successful people obsess over getting the process right because they know and understand karma, even if they don't call it that, cause and effect, right? And that if they do that, if they focus on or complain about being pulled away from or whatever, fear not getting that right, as long as they do the right things, right, that the outcome is inevitable, right? And if it's not, if things didn't work out right, they don't, it's not like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon where he sets up this big fucking elaborate trap and then it fails or backfires on him, and then he just like scrubs the whole damn thing and sets up a whole brand new one. They go back and, okay, that's where it failed. Okay, let's update that, fix that, or whatever. Okay, go again. Okay. Contrary to popular belief, especially here in the West, life and martial arts training, or this mastery thing, not a drive-up window sport. Okay. So we can do it this way, or we can just find out how to get with the right person who will give you the rank and the title you want for free, or whatever you think is a fair price. Okay. So that we can have the ability to brag, to show off, to impress lesser minds, because that's the only people that we're going to impress. Just like the guy that was like, 6 Dan in 6 years. Okay. What does that mean? Well, I got 6 Dan in 6 years. What are you able to do? What the hell does 6 Dan mean? Well, Sensei promoted me, so I must. Still not answering the question. Perhaps a career in politics will help. Right? Anyway, I mean, we've got other options, right? We can go into some martial arts supply place. Well, you don't have to go in anywhere anymore. You can go on friggin' Amazon. You can order it online. I'll give you a couple of addresses: centuryma.com, centurymartialarts.com, tigerclaw.com, AWMA for Asian World of Martial Arts.com. We can, buy a black belt, right? Find online sites that sell customizable rank certificates, right? Make yourself whatever rank you want to be. People do it all the time, right? People buy black belts and get some rocks and throw it in the fucking dryer and, beat their belt so it looks like a friggin' master's belt, right? Anyway, so we can do all these things, or we can just get busy being the no limits person that Smith Sensei has always taught about as the goal, right? This thing, right? It didn't talk about rank names or rank numbers or whatever. Being on this path of mastery that we've chosen is about becoming a no limits person, right? He's always pointed to it as the goal, right? Always conveyed it through his life, right? I do my best at doing this because I won't spit in the face of the person who literally spent his life teaching me what I needed to do to get there, only to piss my potential away on anything less. Won't do it. But again, that's me. So anyway, all right, that took a little bit longer. I apologize. Hopefully James is still awake. James, you awake? Yeah, he's awake. I can see him moving. Questions, comments, complaints. Who's telling Sensei to piss off? Booger off. That's what some of my English friends would say. Piss off, booger off. With Bill Cosby? No, not Bill Cosby. What's his name? It was a long time ago. I was a black comedian. I used to work with Gene Wilder a lot. Do you know what I'm talking about? Shit. I can't remember at the moment. Anyway, somebody brought up that, Bill Cosby telling people that, or that, not to like his humor. I don't have to swear, blah, blah, blah. He swore all the time. And in one of his skits, he's like, yeah, well, tell Bill something for me. Tell him to have, what do you say? Tell him to have a Coca-Cola, eat some Jell-O, and kiss my ass or something like that, right? So, have a Coke and a smile and kiss my ass. So anyway, what do we got, James? Other than your woman is tired and needs to,
Trinity jumped on earlier, said hello, and then the soundtrack of her youth is "Bend Your Knees."
Trinity who? Oh, my daughter. Trinity. Her soundtrack what?
The soundtrack of my youth, "Bend Your Knees."
I had students a long time ago that used to say, your kids have no freaking idea how lucky they are to be doing this stuff, and they were born into it. And I'm like, I don't think you understand how things work. Kids normally resist what their parents are teaching because, they're their parents, right? But anyway, Trinity's in law enforcement now, so she has a different thought on things. But she grew up hearing me say it to other people. She grew up in the dojo, so bend your knees. Have I ever said that? James, did I say that to you? I don't say that to you. I would never.
Never heard it before.
What's that?
Never heard it before.
Yeah, I'm gonna change that because I say bend your knees and then people bend their knees and they move on bent knees.
Yeah. Bending.
Keep bending your fucking knees, right? Knees initiate the movement and all of taijutsu. Anyway, be a verb.
Why said these days my knees go crack whenever I bend them.
Oh man, mine don't, but my wife's do, and my wife doesn't have arthritis, so I don't know what the hell's going on in there. But I have an agreement with my wife that if we're ever being tracked or we're ever in a dangerous situation, she can't stay with me. Like I'm going to send her in a different direction, and she can be the distraction. And she always says, "You're gonna leave me alone to fend for myself." I'm like, no. You're the distraction, right? You go that way, so they follow the cracking and popping, and that way I can sneak up behind them, right? Every warrior has a purpose in an army, right? If you're not stealthy, then you're the distraction. Anyway.
Jeffrey said that was Richard Pryor that you were looking
That's it. It was have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. That's what it was. Because the whole thing was, Bill Cosby said you don't have to be swearing like that, and Richard Pryor can, whatever. I've had my whole career and not sworn or whatever. And Richard Pryor's freaking skits used to be like just loaded with nothing but foul language. And he's like, really? Tell Bill something for me. Tell him to have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. That was Richard Pryor. Anyway, is that it? That's all we have?
Mike over on YouTube said thank you.
So
Trinity said until I am her height that I'm not bending enough.
Yeah, her height with her knees bent or straight. Because we've had some classes there with like certain types of throws, and I'm like, dude, there is no way to get your hips underneath theirs without you taking a knee, because you have to break the knee alignment to get your freaking hips lower than some people's. So take a knee, just go all the way down there, and then just bow forward and toss them over and whatever. But nobody can tell that my daughter has my sense of humor and. Here are the standards. Yeah. Anyway, is that it?
That was it.
Awesome. All right, James, thank you again for helping. I really appreciate it. I couldn't do half the stuff I do without you being you. No, seriously, that's not the bad way, right? Just because you didn't bring anything back from Chicago's Chinatown, fucker. And don't tell me I brought Aaron back. Screw that. Anyway. Guys, don't forget a couple of weeks here, 8th, 9th, and 10th of November. We got fall camp. If you need details, all of the breakout sessions are now up. Trinity's doing one on psychology related to certain things, and I got somebody else doing codes and ciphers. That's a hands-on approach. Again, regardless of whether you're doing virtual or you're doing live. And somebody else, Shoshi Whistler, is doing throwing and striking with little to no touching. That'll be cool. Anyway, so if you can make it, it'd be great, but go to onlineninjaacademy.com. Right there's the URL at the bottom right of the corner. If you are on the live stuff or watching a recording of the video, if you're on the audio only stuff, then it's Online Ninja Academy, all one string, onlineninjaacademy.com/events. Try to keep it simple. KISS, keep it simple. Shinobi. Some of you thought I was going to say stupid, but that would be stupid, Shinobi. Anyway, all right. I think that's it. Hopefully I'll see some of you on for the masterclass tomorrow night. And let's see, Wednesday afternoon for Whiteboard Wednesday. And we'll just keep on trucking. We're in the fourth quarter of 2024. Right, time to start doing some assessments. Are we where we thought we would be? What do we need to throw some extra gasoline on to make it happen? So we're seeing growth, right? Okay, we can say I can, or we can say can I, right? But either way, right? We used to have a thing that we had the kids say at the academy. I can. It stood for improvement is constant and never ending. Okay, it was just simple expression referring to the way the Kongokai mandala works. That there is no end to the path. Okay, so for anybody that's looking for it quick and easy, Ratsa Rock. So anyway, all right, James, thank you again. Aaron, thanks for loaning him. She's probably nearby anyway, because she always is. No? Yes? No? Maybe? Fair enough. All right, that's it, guys. I will talk to you again next time on KUDEN.
Get more of KUDEN Radio, subscribe through your favorite podcasting site, or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.